near sideline. Josh Downs in the end zone. Yes, sir. Anthony Richardson keeps it off edge inside the 20. He's in the 15, 10-5. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Intercepted by the Colts. Zaire Franklin has it.
Live from the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show. Here are Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, and Jeff Rickard.
Good morning. Hope your Wednesday's off to a terrific start. We have a ton of things to talk about today. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, producer Cam, producer Mark back at the station. We are good to go today. We'll tell you all about those guys a little bit later on. But where do we even start, Kevin? Just a whirlwind flurry of things happening yesterday. Shane Steichen speaks. Chris Ballard speaks to the general media. But we had reaction from the NBA to Rick Carlisle. Then Rick Carlisle reacts to the NBA. I think you had put out on your Twitter feed yesterday after the show, and I think you did too, James, Rick Carlisle talking about how the Pacers were less than satisfied with the investigation that the NBA did into their behaviors, if you want to call it that, their treatment of injuries when they were fined $100,000 for tanking a couple of weeks ago. And then later on, the NBA reacts to that. Carlisle comes back at them. What a crazy day on social media for you. Tell me how that went down.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly not what I was expecting when we closed out the show with Rick Carlisle yesterday. So for those that missed it, I think we'll probably play that back here in the 7 o'clock hour. His extremely candid comments and definitely opening up about the $100,000 fine from the NBA. And then, yeah, I guess a little back and forth throughout the day yesterday. Certainly plenty of Colts items to get to. And if you're a member of the basketball program in Bloomington, you're probably glad that we'll talk about that and not what happened last night down there.
That was a rough second half. They just kept missing shot after shot after shot, and Northwestern kept making shots. The next thing you know, Northwestern turns a double-digit deficit into a 72-68 win. And, James, I don't know if that kills Indiana, but that does not help their chances of getting into the postseason.
Definitely doesn't help, and I get it, and we'll get into that game and certainly discuss it, but I get that IU blew the lead. I get that they should have not been in that position, but you can't miss that call. Missing the foul when Tucker DeVries goes up to shoot, I mean, what are we doing? Like, that was an egregious miss, and I get that some calls are harder to see than others, but if this is me and JMV, this is ball up top. We're getting a new possession because of that right there. I mean, that was egregious, and I get it. Like, they should have been in that position, but that's sports sometimes, man. And I hate that you can actively look back at a game like that and say this was affected by the referees.
It was affected by the referees, but I thought the bigger effect was Nick Martinelli. Like, didn't it feel like he went on a personal, 20-0 run at one point in time? I know he didn't. But that's what it felt like, didn't it, Kevin, if you were watching that basketball game in the second half?
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of summed up. It probably sums up maybe the last decade of Indiana basketball. It was Lamar Wilkerson getting on that mini fast break there late in the game and throwing an alley-oop that I don't know what he was frankly thinking there.
You thought your boy was running with him. I was going to catch it.
I don't know what he thought Wembanyama was running with him or what there, but
he's a
I
scorer
thought it
for
was
a reason, KB.
very fitting that not only did that lead to a turnover, but it led to a wide-open three by Nick Martinelli, Northwestern's best player. So, yes, here we are, February 25th, and the annual tradition of debating the Indiana men's basketball resume of if they are one of the best 68 teams in the field. I've said it many times. I'll say it again. No basketball program invests more from their fan base and money and all of it and gets less in return than IU. So that's where we are right now, kind of the state of the union down there. And obviously here, it was busy. I mean, it was busy yesterday, a long day yesterday. We got definitely some news items from Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen. As Jeff said, Chris Ballard will join us here to close out the show today. And, boy, I didn't think Rick Carlisle would overshadow all of it, James, but I feel like he might have yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. To give you a little behind-the-curtain look at my life, we get off the show, and I saw Kevin clip the moment, which was good. And I enjoyed the fact that people had to come to our show to hear these very candid comments. But then I'm messaging my editor like, hey, by the way, we have to write this. And they wanted me to write it just plain as is. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. But, yeah, we got to reach out to the league to see what they're going to say. And so it ended up being like a 2-hour thing for me. After the show, I was sitting around there in the lobby writing an NBA story from the NFL Draft Combine. But it made all the sense in the world. And, honestly, it was a huge story. I don't think I've seen a coach be that candid. And I'm sure he's not the only one who's probably done that. But in recent memory, probably in any league, to go that in-depth about the whole process of ruling a player in or out, and we can get into it. I went down a rabbit hole with the NBA player participation policy, what the stipulations are, what the rules are, what clauses are in there, because there's a lot of gray area and maybe some nuance that gives the NBA an out to fine teams like they did with the Pacers. And I know people are like, well, the rules say this. I will explain. I promise you that it is not as black and white as it probably should be.
That doesn't surprise me at all, watching how the NBA has basically ignored total team tanking for years. You go back and look at what Philadelphia did. You look what the Oklahoma City Thunder did. There are other teams that have participated in that as well. And all of a sudden, I think it's because it's maybe become a bit of a hot topic on social media or on talk radio shows around the country.
Do you think that's
like
a
ours.
factor, Jeff? Because I have thought about this, because tanking isn't new, but it seems like the NBA is a little reactionary to us and social media, and maybe that being a bigger voice than it was even just 10 years ago.
And maybe it is because now the people that are in charge kind of have had their professional careers in the midst of the rise of social media and talk radio and all those kinds of things. But it goes all the way back to the San Antonio Spurs when they got Tim Duncan. Remember that year? They just everybody got hurt. Nobody played the rest of the year, and lo and behold, number one pick, Tim Duncan, the next year. We saw the process in Philadelphia that went on forever and ever and ever. We saw Oklahoma City do a version of it. We've seen it happen in the past. Why now the Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers? It makes no sense to me at this point in time.
And I greatly appreciate you guys being friends and not bringing up what happened in South Bend last night.
Oh, we'll get to the check down coming up in a minute. But if you want to talk about it now, we can do that.
No, Coach almost died. You see him?
Coach got hurt. Had to be helped off by a guy who was also
Looks
hurt.
like Ed Reed coming out of the tunnel. I'm hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm okay.
Why do you ask the one guy that's hurt?
Joaquin said dominate, and we not dominating.
That was Shrewsbury last night.
But Shrewsbury leans on the one guy that won't play again the rest of the season because he's hurt to go out of the arena.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
They do have 8 scholarship players,
So,
but
KB,
nonetheless.
you want to just
a
lay on the
total.
table here like you're on the couch at the therapy office?
You all right?
So, James, we got out of here at what? 7 o'clock last night?
About 7 o'clock, yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, I cannot wait to go home and watch the Irish. Here we go. Let's go. Gonna go home. Gonna watch the Irish. See the kids, of course. But, watch my favorite team. And
Didn't take long, though, did it?
it's the worst loss in program history. Caleb Zuver was there, our buddy, our
Yeah, we
We'll
got
have to call him later today.
Sent me a picture from there, and
Jeff,
it was like, oh, man, great home crowd. I'm like, well, have you seen the opponent they're playing? I think it's a lot of Duke fans in there.
We need to investigate Caleb Zuver's and one of our great producers when Mark decides to take one of his inevitable vacation days. I saw I got an email yesterday. Mark's out again.
Yeah, he's
by
gonna
the
be
way.
gone for a while now.
But
Coming
shout
up
out
in
to Mark and Caleb. But jokes aside, well, I'm going to joke again. Caleb is an Ohio State football fan and a Duke basketball fan.
I know.
And I'm like, okay,
Right.
you will never see the pearly white gates of heaven.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
He's
Yeah.
really excited
Alabama
for the Yankees to get underway. It's spring
Alabama
training.
football
Alabama
fan
has
back
to
in the
start.
day.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to judge the fandom a little bit.
right, yeah.
So I have questions for him whenever we see him again, Jeff.
James, your biggest Colts news item from yesterday. Let's start there. News item.
Ooh, I will go with the fact that Travarius Ward is expected to play in 2026, and we talked about that here on the show. We could dive deeper into it, but that is certainly maybe the most newsworthy item. But the other one that I might even argue might be bigger, like for the league, is that Anthony Richardson still doesn't have his full vision. And I get that he keeps saying he's progressing, and he went and saw a specialist recently, but from a national perspective, I think people want to know what's going to happen with Anthony, and it's still, to me, tied to his eye and how well he can see moving forward, because obviously to play in the NFL and play quarterback, nonetheless, you need to be able to see
So cleared
fully.
to play, though.
Yes, but at the same time, what does that mean? I mean,
I thought it
technically, he was cleared to practice last year. He's part of the active, like, not active roster, but like the roster in practice that actually took some snaps. So is it one of those things where, like, you're clear, but you're not fully yourself? I don't know. There's some gray area there.
I thought it was really interesting the language that Shane Steichen chose to use when he was talking about guys coming back from injury. Everybody was progressing. Did you notice that, Kevin?
Well,
everybody was just progressing. That was the only answer. Like, how's Anthony Richardson doing? I mean, it's been a while now for that eye. And to your point of what you were just talking about, he was asked about Anthony Richardson. Well, he's progressing.
Yeah, him
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's
Ballard fell short of committing, and I get it. Like, you
That's
don't wanna
4
put
years
it
of
out
Shane Steichen lingo. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised
No,
by
I
that.
get it, but
I'm more of a they
I just
never
thought-
committed to this is going to be a future here in Indy, and we can get to the
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson audio in a little bit. I'm very curious what the next couple weeks will hold for Michael Pittman Jr.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I still think a restructure makes sense for all parties. I guess maybe not for the Pittman party, but you got to live in a dose of reality here. But I don't know. I don't think it's a I don't think it's a Lamar Wilkerson alley-oop to Sam Alexis that Michael Pittman Jr. is back. I guess is probably how I would put it. It's not some slam dunk backboard slap. That's kind of the impression that I get. And I do think that's a big domino in this offseason. Obviously, the Daniel Jones, Alec Pierce thing. And Chris Ballard, I thought, was probably the most outspoken I've heard him, James, in just saying, I really don't want to use the franchise tag.
Yeah.
Now, when 4 o'clock next Tuesday rolls around, you know, and maybe that's your only choice, you're probably going to use it. But, you know, he remains very positive publicly about getting a long-term deal done, plurally long-term deals done with both Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I know we got to hit a break, but KB, if we swap laptops, do you think we'd both have the pre-writes ready for the franchise tag? Because, I mean, what did he say? We were talking to him off to the side, and he says, yeah, you know, we're hopeful. Hope isn't a plan. I get that, but we're hopeful. And
that was my favorite
too.
quote he had yesterday. There's nothing I hate more than when people, like, especially like in sports, because that's what we cover, use the word "we are hopeful." Well, how many times have I said in the show, I'm hopeful to play Augusta National one day.
You were hopeful last night going into the Duke, Notre Dame game.
Freaking believable.
When did you turn that game off?
Oh, he turned off.
Yeah.
Oh,
I stuck through Brady Stevens getting minutes last night. That would be the son of Brad Stevens. So, yeah, that was tough. Shout out to Brady Kaler. I do feel like the Cathedral products made some nice progress here, but tough times for the Notre Dame basketball fandom.
So he's progressing too. That's our word today. He's progressing.
Yeah, he is.
Everybody's progressing. We're going to progress through the show. Coming up with a check down in a moment here. We got Thad Matta, the coach of the Butler Bulldogs, joining us at 8:30 at 9:45 or so. Chris Ballard will stop by, and we'll let that interview run its course before we get back into ESPN programming. And we'll also open up the phone lines today, 239-1070 for your Colts questions, your Pacers questions. You can send us a text and give us your thoughts there at 239-1070 as well. It's all straight ahead. It's a Wednesday morning at the draft. I'm sorry, at the Combine, getting ready for the draft here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
checked out. Brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids online. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
Day 2 of the 2026 NFL Combine. We are here. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen. I'm Jeff Rickard. Mark Dykton, as always, back at the studio. Producer Cam to our left. And yesterday, at the very end of the day, both Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard addressed the media as a whole in a big conference, press conference style setting. Did we learn much, Kevin Bowen, from either guy?
Yeah, James hit on it. I thought the Travaris Ward indication that he will play in 2026 was a news item we were curious about. Again, we've gotten into the debate of what that should mean for a cornerback. If you want to live in a very hopeful and optimistic view, on paper they do have a really nice top 3, top 4 cornerback group. Now, of course, we'll see how the season plays out, particularly with Ward's situation here. But I think that was the biggest news item we were curious about, and we got clarity on that yesterday.
Did you get a sense, James Boyd, that the Colts are going to really try to find a way to keep Michael Pittman?
I can go back and forth on it. I thought that Chris Ballard's comments about, hey, anything about him not being on this team next year is hypothetical, purely hypothetical, was a savvy move to perhaps, just keep a couple teams at bay. But as Kevin pointed out in the first segment of the show, it still, to me, is a big lift financially, especially knowing the deficiencies you have in other areas. Like, even if you bring back Michael Pittman Jr. on a restructured contract and a lower contract, would you rather take that money and put it towards your edge rushers, for example? So we'll see.
All right. Later on today, we will speak with Chris Ballard. That will be around 9:45 this morning.
He told us he could do it at 8, and he said, I don't want to get up that early. And I was like, you're acting like Mike Chappell. Wake up.
What's the one thing you really want to drive into and dive into and drill down onto with Chris Ballard today?
Yeah, I've got a few follow-ups just from some of the comments that he made yesterday. And I know you said it to open up the show there, but just to reiterate for our audience, we will, in all likelihood, go into the 10 o'clock hour a little bit with Chris Ballard today. So definitely stay tuned to that. I know yesterday it turned out to be quite appointment listening late in the show with Rick Carlisle, and I'm looking forward to the conversation with
some
Chris Ballard
solidarity.
today.
We need Chris Ballard to back up Rick Carlisle. That way he can say what Carlisle said for him, the NBA can't get me.
Mark, at one point, didn't we have the Goodell, Adam Silver back and forth there with Rick Carlisle? I don't know if that audio applies to maybe how yesterday played out, though.
Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah.
So I'm saying Ballard has to show some solidarity and return the favor.
All right. Speaking of the Pacers, they lose to the Sixers last night, 135-114. They've lost 4 in a row, but that pales in comparison to a tweet that you put out that included some sound that Rick Carlisle gave us yesterday, his opinion clapping back a little bit at the NBA for the way they investigated the Pacers before they got that $100,000 fine. Then it caught fire. Every NBA big account started retweeting it and talking about it and posting it. So much so, Kevin, that the NBA put out a statement yesterday saying, we believe, and this was the key phrase, we believe his characterization of the investigation was inaccurate.
Yeah, I would say on the other side, we play the Rick Carlisle clip for those that missed it, and then we also get into the NBA statement. I read the statement several times, and I don't think it really debunks a lot, maybe some, but certainly not a lot of what Rick Carlisle shared with us.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think it was some just total vaporization, if you will, of what Carlisle had to say. And I've never been one to go down this path, and I'm hesitant to even say it out loud, but listening to Rick Carlisle's comments in regards to the Pacers yesterday, it's probably one of the few times in my certainly being on the show or just my general, living in a small market NBA team where the whole adage of like the NBA is out to screw the little guys, you hear his comments yesterday, man, it just there's a little smoke, I guess, going down that path. And again, this comes from someone that is not one that runs to that. If there's a bad call at the end of the game, I'm not one, the NBA is screwing the Pacers again. This is typical how they hate on the small market team. That's not really my cup of tea, but listening to their process or lack thereof in finding the Pacers $100,000, and honestly, it's not just the fine. I mean, there's a lot of humiliation that I think goes with your label with another team in that press release with the Utah Jazz. So if you've missed the clip, we'll play it here upcoming, and we'll react to the NBA statement as well.
All right. Not to be lost in all this, though. Micah Potter had a career night, 23 points last night, 11 of 13 from the field. I just want to point that out because I don't know that we'll get to say that very often.
Yeah, I mean, hey, a game did happen last night. It was so crazy that basically everything that happened here on the show and even Rick's follow-up statements to the follow-up statements from the league overshadowed that game. So the Pacers lose their fourth straight. I believe they're 15-44 now. Worst record in the Eastern Conference and second worst record in the NBA. All
right, on to college basketball last night. Indiana needing a win at home over Northwestern, a team that has now won how many games in a row over the Hoosiers?
6.
72-68 the final score. Indiana led for most of the game, but then midway through the second half, Nick Martinelli of Northwestern caught fire. Indiana couldn't score to save their lives, had a chance to tie it with a desperation three in the waning seconds of the game. It looked like it was a clear foul against Tucker DeVries. It was not called. That was pretty much the end of the game.
The ref needed these.
Your glasses, right?
The ref needed these last night. I mean, I get it. Like, they shouldn't have blown the big lead, but my gosh, how do you miss that? That is a horrible miscall. But
the basketball gods from the Wisconsin game now go in reverse with that ending.
Yeah,
there.
but I like when the guys just stay on my side. You can bless others, but bless me first.
Boy, I thought to myself, Ryan Carr's got a lot of work to do when I was watching that unfold.
That is a real statement.
Last night. So, in the short term, if you want to focus on the resume for this year, it is an ugly stain on a resume that lacks good wins. They've had all these opportunities. When you're in the Big Ten, you get all these quad one opportunities. You're 2-10 in those, and now you have a home quad 3 loss. So, any sort of bracketology that gets updated here in the next few days, you will have Indiana squarely on the bubble, if not out of the tournament.
And just for Evan Sherrill, shout out to the Ball State Cardinals getting a dub over UMass. 1-point victory. Evan, the ever great-smelling Evan, cluster truck, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, that was a huge comeback I saw there. Michael Lewis, I know it's been a tough season. I believe Armani Ziegler, I think, is who had the game winner there in overtime. May have Ohio. Speaking of the MAC, they also won last night, so they are approaching an undefeated regular season. 3 games left.
Boy,
they would be
crazy.
I think I saw the 7th team since the tournament expanded to have an undefeated regular season.
All right, let's talk ACC basketball, James. Last night, Duke playing on the road against Notre Dame.
About it. KBS
100-56. Did I read this is the worst Notre Dame loss in home basketball history or period history?
I believe home basketball history. Yeah, Cameron Boozer, what he did to Notre Dame last night should be illegal in all 50 states.
He was allowed to leave with the rest of the team, though. Nobody arrested him or stopped him at the gates on the way out.
I knew it was a trying time for Notre Dame when they're down to 8 scholarship players with their health situation, and one of them announced on Monday that he was pursuing an NFL career. And yes, you heard that right. One of their basketball players, who's one of the worst free throw shooters I've seen in the history of basketball. He tries to bank in every free throw. Shout out to Carson Tout. He is signed an NFL, I guess, with an agent to pursue an NFL career.
Dang, I'm trying to get on Love Island now.
Horrific last night. Just utterly awful. I was so pissed. I'm so pissed.
I will tell you that you were talking about Cameron Boozer, a potential number 1 overall pick. 23-13 in only 24 minutes, Kevin.
Yeah.
They finally just had to sit him down to make
His
it fair.
skill, I will say this. I mean, Notre Dame is depleted in the front court right now, so I don't want to make too much of what he did around the rim. But his ability to stretch the floor in such a smooth and casual way is so underrated. James, I have done a poor job. He looks like he is he's just a smooth, rock-solid basketball player. And I know that doesn't sound sexy, and he's not going to be the high flyer, and he's maybe not going to pull up from the volleyball line. But that dude is just – I think he could walk into an NBA game right now and have a very consistent impact for legit teams. And I don't know about too many top 5 picks that you even say that about. Sometimes for a lot of these guys it takes time, and he is mature beyond his whatever he is, 18 years old, 19 years old.
Absolutely. And just real quick, I would say that everything about him is about, okay, does he have the ceiling to be an NBA franchise player? But if we're talking about right now today, he is the National Player of the Year, which is a crazy statement to make considering how great this freshman class has been, how great some of these other older players have been. But he's the best player in college basketball, and I don't even think it's like that debatable at this point.
Also, head coach Micah Shrewsbury gets hurt during the game. I don't even know when or how it happened, but he had to lean on somebody to leave the arena at one point in time. What's going on? Do we know?
Gosh, just think about what you just said out loud.
Is that kind of the Notre Dame season in a nutshell?
Sounds like me and KB leaving a slippery noodle.
Unfree. I mean, literally, it sounds like some of these people are going to stumble in here to the old combine here. Yeah, I believe a torn Achilles.
Oh, that's awful.
Oh, dang.
Late,
Actually,
late first half. Yeah,
That's
I mean, it summed up the Notre Dame season quite accurately.
All right, boys high school basketball last night. Number 1 Fishers in 4A finished their regular season with a perfect record, an 82-52 win over North Central. Hamilton Southeastern got past Lawrence North. Is that a little bit of an upset, 76-70, James?
I would probably say so. But, yeah, I think HSC's been playing good basketball.
7 in a row, I think. Yeah. And Mount Vernon used 26 from Luke Ertl to get a win over Westfield, 63-55. Those are some of the bigger games last night in boys high school basketball. So anything else you guys want to throw in on what was a busy, crazy day in sports yesterday?
Yeah, our airwaves tonight, right, for Butler?
Yeah. And that'll be on a little bit later on today.
Butler at Villanova, 9.5-point underdog tonight. Yes, Thad Matta will join us.
John will be broadcasting from Hinkle Fieldhouse before the game, too. So we got that going.
Really? Isn't the game?
That is such a John
next
setup.
week. That's next
They're
Wednesday.
on the road, aren't they?
Next Wednesday, yes. They're on the road this week. Next Wednesday, they're at home.
I was going to say.
I was looking forward to March already, getting the tournament going, man.
John is in Philadelphia.
No.
I was like, damn, this man's been traveling.
They got Villanova tonight. They'll be at home next Wednesday.
Don't worry. If you
It'll be the last home game next Wednesday.
If you let him do a show from the empty Hinkle Fieldhouse, he'd be getting shots up during the show.
100%. He'd be yelling Hickory, just like
You know
I
what,
was
though?
yesterday. Here.
He likes being out of the studio so much. If I told him he was going to an empty field house to do a remote, he'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
He would
Let's
love
go.
that. Shout out JMV, man.
Wake him up early in the morning, but that's next Wednesday. He'll be out at Hinkle Fieldhouse. All right, that's what's happening in the world of sports. We'll talk more about the Pacers, Rick Carlisle, and the NBA coming up next.
It is indoor and outdoor concrete. That would be Galaxy Concrete Coatings. Garages, basements, patios, porches, sidewalks. You head online, galaxyconcretecoatings.com. And I think the pictures will tell you the full story of what they exactly can offer. And certainly, I think you'll find something that can match your home situation or workplace. You know, our home, 100 years old, I was a little skeptical at first. I was like, wait a minute here. We're really going to find something that matches, and we have. It was the Jupiter style and new sidewalk, new front porch, and we love the results. Also manufacturers upgrade the warranty from 15 years to lifetime, and it was a very efficient process on site, in and out in about 24 hours. Again, it's galaxyconcretecoatings.com. That's indoor and outdoor concrete, garages, basements, patios, porches, sidewalks. Head to galaxyconcretecoatings.com today.
Katie Gerald's possibly one of the greatest players ever to play this game in the state of Indiana. Steph, that's saying quite a bit, isn't it?
That is saying quite a bit. There have been a lot of great players to play in Indiana, but Katie Gerald's just one of the many to follow in the footsteps of the ones that started before. A great player.
The Beech Grove Hornets hit the floor at center court. They are excited, and the celebration begins for the 28-1 state champs in 3A. What a game.
What a game indeed. Beech Grove came out really from the beginning and did not look back. You cannot stop Katie Gerald, and everybody else really stepped up, hit some big shots, got some big rebounds.
Oh, we know that voice. That would be Stephanie White back on the call in 2003 there. It was Katie Gerald's and the Hornets of Beech Grove, 63-45, winning the 3A state title. Obviously, extremely decorated career for Katie Gerald's, McDonald's All-American, now currently coaching at her alma mater up there in West Lafayette. And this Saturday, it's what it's all about, inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the girls basketball state finals, presented by the Indiana Fever and the Indiana Pacers. Really, the matchups have got some teams kind of close together, not facing each other, but in terms of travel. In the morning session, you've got Eastern in the 2A, Borden in the Class A game. That's down the southern part of the state, only about 10-15 minutes from each other. And then in the nightcap, we've got locally Ron Colley in the 3A game, Center Grove trying to cap an undefeated season in 4A, and their opponents, Belmont in the 3A, Norwell in the 4A, relatively close to each other up in the northeast part of the state. It's kind of a unique grouping here in our four classes coming up again Saturday inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. For tip times and to buy tickets, head to ihsa.org today.
Live from the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
Lots of football to get to, of course, throughout the day here as the National Football League and all who cover it, and many general managers and many head coaches and all kinds of media folks converge on downtown Indianapolis as they do every year to start getting ready for the brand new year of the NFL, with free agency getting ready to start and declarations on franchise tags having to be made and all those kinds of things, getting ready for the draft coming up in April. But we will start this morning, if you're just joining us, by talking about the Indiana Pacers. And yesterday in the 9 o'clock hour, Rick Carlisle came on, and as he does every week, was talking to us here on the Fan, talking to you guys, and he kind of clapped back against the NBA and its investigation in the run-up to their $100,000 fine from the league for lack of a better word, tanking. Clapped back pretty hard, so much so you posted it on social media. It kind of went viral, certainly within NBA media circles, so much so that the NBA, Kevin, decided they had to put out a response yesterday in the afternoon.
Yeah, and James, maybe we'll play the clip and then go ahead and share the NBA statement. We kind of play off of it like that. But again, just to set everything up from yesterday with Rick Carlisle, we had him on as we always do. And, James, this is what? We're about 2 weeks removed, I guess, from the fine. And this is our first conversation with Rick since that, because the NBA All-Star break, we didn't have him on last week. And, he had released, I would say, just kind of a relatively bland statement.
Yeah.
Not
mild.
showing. Yeah, mild is a good way to put it. And I was just kind of curious if 2 weeks later, if anything, whatever, had simmered a little bit more, or if he was ready to, maybe open up a little bit. And clearly he was. So this is Rick Carlisle with us yesterday about the $100,000 fine for the Pacers.
Yeah, I put out a statement about it. I didn't agree with it. There was a league lawyer that was doing the interview that kind of unilaterally decided that Aaron Nesmith, who had been injured the night before and couldn't hold the ball, should have played in the game, which just seems ridiculous. And during the interview process, I was not on it, but I heard details. We asked them if they wanted to talk to our doctors about it, because it's something that was documented by our doctors and trainers. They said no, they didn't need to. They talked to their doctors, who did not examine Aaron Nesmith. And we asked them if they wanted to talk to the kid. And they said no, they didn't need to. So this was shocking. This was shocking to me. And during the interview, they also asked if we'd considered medicating him to play in a game when we were 30 games under 500. So I was very surprised. Obviously didn't agree with it. This is really the first time I've gone into any detail about it, but that was the deal. And so, yeah, that was it.
That was it. You posted that, and that's when the fight started, so to speak, Kevin. That's when people started spreading it around, and then before you know it, the NBA issued a statement, James Boyd.
Yeah, we had to reach out to them for comment, and here's what they said. Probably about, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 hours after our show had ended, early afternoon, and it says, Coach Carlisle's description of the process that went into the decision to find the Indiana Pacers is inaccurate. An independent physician led the medical review. In addition, the Pacers general manager and the team's senior vice president of sports medicine and performance were interviewed as part of the process. The Pacers confirmed that it had provided all of the information requested by the league, and the team reported that an interview with Coach Carlisle or a team position wasn't necessary. That last part, an interview with Coach Carlisle or a team physician wasn't necessary. The team confirmed it. Like, what does that even mean? Like, so you're basically telling us, okay, well, we disagree with how Rick Carlisle went about explaining the process, but ultimately, when he says no one talked to us like directly or no one checked with us directly, that is what happened. And so to me, it sounded like, well, these are our rules, you violated them, but then I'm reading this back, and feel free to weigh in, you all, is like, these rules sound very dumb, and they don't make a lot of sense to me, especially when we're dealing with medical or physical issues that can hinder a guy from playing.
Yeah, first off, the whole saying that you could medicate him to play, I think, is one of the wilder statements I've ever heard. And the fact that NBA statement does not debunk Rick's original comments is quite alarming. Can you imagine, James Boyd? Let's shift it to the other team here as we are live at the Combine. Can you imagine if Roger Goodell and his team said to the Colts and Javarius Ward, hey, man, here's some Advil. Go play with your concussion. Like, if you want to put it into those sorts of terms, and that's where Rick came back, and he didn't expand on it a ton last night before the game, but he had one more comment about just the need to stress player health. And he felt like it was a need to defend Aaron Nesmith is kind of where the root of why he shared all that with us yesterday. And Aaron has battled a variety of injuries. And I think anybody that watches Aaron Nesmith play basketball, the last thing you're going to do is question that man's toughness or his desire to play the game. So I was stunned in a way that was how it all played out. But then there was a part of me that's like, I'm not too stunned because I think there's a ton of gray area with this. And, I've called it selective punishment quite often. And I think it was a panic to punish without the proper evidence. I think they had Utah kind of sitting there as a second offender, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think they felt the need to throw another team into the mix. And they decided to on the second night of a back-to-back, which I think we got to point out as well.
Third game in 4 nights.
That is when this was, hit on there.
Yeah,
so
like, I get that the example you use, obviously, with Travaris Ward is different. It's concussion and all that. And Aaron Nesmith had like a left hand strain. But I feel like we should have a common sense rule where they play 3 games in 4 nights. The guy's hand might not be where it needs to be. And to Carlisle's point, and I think some of the detractors who are like, well, he said they were 30 games under 500. That's the whole point. That is the whole point. Like, why would you risk a player, even if it isn't a severe injury, why would you risk them playing when there's nothing of a big picture standpoint to play for? And then this is where I went on a rabbit hole. So when you look at the player participation policy, which I'm sure all of you had a great time looking at it alongside me and my nerdy self. So there's 2 like stipulations, but basically when you're reading it, a lot of it applies to star players. And in the NBA, they deem star players as those who've made an all-star team or an all-NBA team within the last 3 years plus the season you're in. Like if you make the all-star team this year, you're a star. And so I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, well, why does this even apply to Aaron Nesmith? Like, why is he even a part of this equation? I get that Siakam initially was mentioned, but they mentioned indirectly other 2 starters. So I'm like, why is that even a thing? So I did some digging around, and shout out to Tony East, my brother from another, covering the Pacers as well, does a great job. I called him. I'm like, yo, am I reading this correctly? And as we're going through it, there is a tiny clause in, like, the penalization section that basically says, okay, when we get past all the star player participation points and we talk about, reviewing medical records and whether or not they can play, there is a clause in there that says, aside from a team's star players, if there is another player who, quote, does not participate in a game in circumstances that are, in the opinion of the commissioner, prejudicial or detrimental to the NBA, he can penalize them. So basically, you have the opportunity to pick and choose when you want to penalize teams. And I feel like that, to me, is what Adam Silver did here. Because that, to me, kind of clarified why we haven't seen a uniform, hard and fast rule. Because I'm like, I got to go to page 6 and squint and look, and I'm like, oh, there's just one sentence that basically gives you an out to choose when you want to punish players and how you want to punish players. And I don't agree with that part of it. And I get it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, the Pacers, the Jazz, the Pelicans want to win a ton of games. But if you want to penalize teams, man, you got to make it very clear. Otherwise, I think it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, where are the Kings, where are the Wizards?
Like, that's what I'm saying. So did you just choose? You know what? Those Pacers, they got on my nerves today. I'm gonna just penalize.
That's what it felt like.
Right, and that to me is like stupid. And I get it. Like other teams are gonna say, well, they are probably trying to lose. I get that. But you can't tell me the Kings are trying to win. Like, what are we talking about?
Last night before the game, Rick Carlisle was asked about the NBA responding there. He said, quote, my number one fixation is player health. I have a long history of concern for this going back to all my head coaching because one of the jobs of a head coach is to manage player health. The Aaron Nesmith situation was bothersome to me. It really was bothersome to him. I don't want to belabor this. It's time to move on. It's time to move forward. But player health, and you've got a guy like that who's missed a lot of games over the last 2 years, and one reason is because he goes so hard, and he goes so hard for our organization. I just felt it was important to support him and support the organization.
I'll be curious if the NBA Players Union steps in at all with this.
We did reach out to them for comment. We didn't hear back just yet, but I would expect, or at least hope to hear. There's that hope word again. I would hope to hear from them for sure.
Yeah, and again, I just don't understand the lack of examining the player himself, and the fact that the NBA releases that statement and none of it in there addresses Rick Carlisle saying that the league, told them that they could have medicated Aaron Nesmith to play.
It's like when your girlfriend asks you, hey, we got to talk, and then she mentions all the things you did wrong. You pick like the one thing that's 7 on the list, and then you go there.
You better believe I was doing that. That, to me, is the real egregious nature to all of this. And good for Rick Carlisle and coming out and defending his player. I think that will be extremely well received inside of that Pacers locker room in regards to Aaron Nesmith as an individual as well. And, I'm watching the game last night. The Pacers are getting drubbed in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're down, whatever it was, 25 with 4 minutes to go in the game, and there's Andrew Nembhard out there playing. There are a lot of teams right now that are not doing that in the fourth quarter. Siakam the other night, he played late in the fourth quarter. So that's where I struggle so much with this. And, again, I'll go back to what I said about 25 minutes ago. I'm not this guy that bitches and moans and stands on the table saying the NBA hates the small market teams and the Pacers, get treated poor. Like, I think that's an easy cop-out for a lot of people, and I don't totally agree with it. But when I hear some of this play out in the manner that it has, it gives a lot of smoke to people that do believe that. And it has me pausing. And I'm not one that is quick to run to those things.
So, remember we were talking earlier, Jeff, about why is the NBA perhaps more in your face with we don't want tanking, we don't want to allow it. Adam here on the text line messaged us this morning and goes, guys, the NBA is 100% bound to the betting platforms. And honestly,
There's a lot of that talk
I hadn't
going on
thought
right now.
of that perspective, but I do think that is a valid question that needs to be asked to Adam Silver.
Walk me through this situation in regards to that. I don't disagree with Adam's thought, but what they wanted Neesmith to play for betting purposes?
No, not the like. So for example, the NBA has partnered with betting, let's say FanDuel or whatever.
Yeah.
I place a bet saying, Aaron Neesmith is gonna, score 15 points or whatever. He's gonna do whatever. They probably feel like, when these guys sit out games or they don't play in the fourth quarter, they're ruining our ability to continue to make money off of them because we partner with every single betting platform under the sun. So
That's
that
the
to
key
me
right there.
is probably the angle he's taking. And I'm not saying like this is a foregone conclusion, but I do want to hear him out on that. And I think that is a real thing. And maybe it applies more so to the Jazz, for example.
See, that's where I'm at.
Than the
to
Pacers?
me, it applies more to you play the guy, but in the back of your mind, you're pulling him early.
Right.
Therefore, the over-under bet that everybody wants to bet,
exactly,
it is skewed. Aaron Neesmith didn't play in the game.
Right.
So, you couldn't bet on him.
Right.
So that's where, I'm not going to ignore that, and I do realize there is certainly you're in bed with the betting partners. But to me, and this gets back to who you should punish and who you shouldn't punish, the more egregious team in this situation would be a team like Utah, which a few weeks back they played Lauri Markkanen. They played Jaren Jackson Jr. They played some of their frontline guys, and then the fourth quarter comes around, all of you come sit on the bench.
Yeah.
And that's where the over-unders get very messy very quickly.
Yeah, and it goes kind of exactly what both of you were saying, but it's even deeper. I mean, they're going to be new distribution avenues next year, but what is for many, many teams, what's the primary broadcast network for local NBA games called right now? What's it called?
Sports.
It's called FanDuel. You see it, whether it's DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever, in every arena now, sometimes in stadiums, and that's big money. They spend big, big money to do those things. And there's no such thing as a legitimate, in the NBA right now, there's no such thing as a legitimate over-under anymore. You don't know who's going to play night to night. You don't know how long they're going to play. And I feel like the integrity of the game from the NBA's perspective, that's pushing them to say, okay, now we're going to fix this. Now we're going to fix this. So that's where the conspiracy theory for people saying it all goes back to betting. Is that why? I don't think I can sit here and say definitively that's why, but it sure makes you think hard about it, doesn't it, Kevin?
Mark had to laugh at me yesterday. Mark, this was you reaching out to the NBA to see if we could get Adam Silver on. That was a thank you for the Hammond T-shirt purchase, okay?
Uh-huh. No problem. Yeah. I figured it was
Did you make
worth
the
a
purchase
shot.
yesterday?
Purchase made. So cannot wait to rock those. Mark and I will wear them the same day. We're best friends in third grade, rocking the same shirt. But
like
we
Will
did
Ferrell and John C. Reilly and Step Brothers. We just become best friends.
I think you're best friends now.
Thank you. We did have Adam Silver on back during the NBA All-Star weekend, and so I figured Mark still had a contact. And again, Rick Carlisle said these comments where? On this show.
On these shows.
So, Mark, you did reach out to the NBA to see if maybe the commissioner had a few minutes, and to be fair to the NBA, they did get back to you, correct?
Yeah, Michael Bass, who's the EVP of communications for the league, reached out to me after I had messaged him. I was like, I know it's a long shot. Any chance Adam Silver wants to hop on these airwaves and respond to Rick Carlisle's comments? And he said, hey, Mark, nice to hear from you. Unfortunately, Adam is not available to pop on with you guys at this time. You may have missed it, but here's our league comments on Coach Carlisle's from earlier today, and then he just released the press release statement and everything. But they did get back to us, but yeah, I don't think we're getting Adam Silver anytime soon.
Nice response there from the NBA. And Adam Silver has already made, James, you would know this better, he usually makes what? One appearance inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse each year, maybe two.
Yeah, probably something along those lines.
I believe he already did he usually does it early in the season with the toy drive. But can you imagine if Adam Silver had yet to make his appearance inside a Gainbridge Fieldhouse, that might be 17,000 people, and they're booing him loudly. And I am a little nervous how
I little citizen's arrest. Hey, get over here.
I am a little nervous how
we got some questions for you.
Weighted those ping pong balls might be here in 2.5 months.
That's honestly
if you want to continue down the conspiracy theory route.
That's a thought I had. I said, do you guys think this is gonna? I was thinking out loud. I was like, do you think this is gonna hurt like their chances come lottery time? Because they'd be like, you know what? You kind of threw us on the grill here. You know, maybe your lottery balls get kind of shuffled in a little deeper in the pile.
One other thing I did want to mention before we wrap this up that did bother me about that statement yesterday, it's not saying that he lied or anything like that, but when the NBA comes out with a statement saying, essentially pointing the finger right at Rick Carlisle and saying, that's inaccurate. They could choose one teeny tiny little thing that they don't think is inaccurate and say that, but if you're not really clued into the whole situation, doesn't it sound like the NBA is saying, oh, he's just making stuff up? Because they're talking about a specific investigation that Rick was very specific on what did or didn't happen, and all they say is, that's inaccurate.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Rick laid out, 3, 4, maybe even 5 things that he had an issue with in the process. In the NBA, I'd have to go back and read the statement again, but really only debunked maybe 1 or 2. You know, I think maybe they did talk to the head of the medical staff. Is that what they said?
Yeah.
In the statement, but they did not talk to Neesmith, the player. And they sure as hell didn't mention anything about the medicated,
request.
Yes.
Which is, if that's true, that's just wild.
Which, again, that to me is the most egregious aspect to the statement or Carlisle's comments in itself. And, that to me was just, when I read that, that was wild. And that's where, again, the Players Union, you have to have some sort of statement, if not step in and ask for further investigation into this.
Well, you would think so. We got a busy day here for you this morning here on the Fan Morning Show. Chris Ballard coming your way at 9:45. Thad Matta, head coach of the Butler Bulldogs, going to join us from on the road at 8:30 this morning as they get ready for another game tonight in Big East Conference play. We'll take some more of your thoughts, feedback, phone calls, texts at 239-1070 and get you ready to go for day 2 of the NFL Combine right here in the Downtown Convention Center in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine.
From the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
Starting to fill up a little bit here in the 8 o'clock hour on the convention floor of the National Football League's 2026 Combine. Meeting started yesterday. Already started hearing from coaches and general managers. Actually, mostly, Kevin, wasn't yesterday mostly about coaches and general managers throughout the day for all the teams that did attend?
Correct. And today we'll get to players. So I believe in the next minute or so, Aiden Fisher, for example, will be on the other side of the curtain that we are on, and he will be chatting with the media. So we start with the linebackers and the DBs, and then we make our way into eventually to the quarterbacks. It was funny. I was just walking out back to our set over here, and former Colts coach, from the Frank Reich era, was standing there, and we chatted briefly. He said he was taking the cab in last night and going by Lucas Oil Stadium, and he said the loudest memory he has inside of Lucas Oil Stadium. So if you guys thought Frank Reich era, what would you say would be the loudest memory that coach would have inside of that building?
Well, the way you say that makes me feel like it's not obvious.
Was it the JT run against the Patriots?
Indeed.
Yeah.
The Saturday night Jonathan Taylor
Look at
run.
you.
James Boyd all over it. We did have to share a chuckle about maybe the lack of quarterback play towards the end of that season and forcing Jonathan Taylor to run the football a whole lot. But, that's one of the questions that, Shane Steichen did hit on yesterday, and I think will be a focus as we get closer to the season, James, is just how contrasting the run game was from the first 2 months of the year to the last 2 months of the year. He specifically mentioned the lack of explosive runs. I forget what the stat was. I remember I looked it up late in the year. James, I believe after the Kansas City game, it might have included the Kansas City game. So what, 7 games left at that point? I don't believe Jonathan Taylor had a run of more than 15 yards the rest of the season. I mean, think about that. Jonathan Taylor. Not one run in a 6-week stretch, a 7-week stretch of 15 yards. I'm not saying 50. I'm saying 15 yards. And that is a absolute 180 from what he did early in the year. When it was home run after home run after home run, he was ripping off. So amongst all the Colts storylines from last season, we obviously talk about the injury situation for the first half, the second half. The inability to get Taylor going at all, I think, is a huge story.
And sort of related to that, too, there were questions asked to Shane Steichen about did you start to call the game differently once Daniel Jones had that broken leg? And he talked about that a little bit. And at first he was like, no, not so much. But towards the end of the conversation, didn't it feel like he kind of admitted a little bit that it did start to change the way he called plays? And it certainly seemed like it changed the way even before the major injury to the Achilles. And then it was obvious after that where teams just didn't respect the passing game at all and just loaded up on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the boot stuff, some of the movement, even if you're not outright running Daniel Jones, like whatever, he's Lamar Jackson, I think some of the ability to move him outside of the pocket was definitely a hindrance.
Yeah, I thought it honestly limited Tyler Warren and how explosive he was towards the second half of the season. If you look at his production when Daniel Jones was healthy, fully healthy, versus when he fractured his leg and tore his Achilles, there was a drop-off from Tyler Warren. I think a lot of that had to do with just some of the misdirection stuff you can do. Like you said, some of the boot stuff you can do, running around. And, again, we'll see what, assuming Daniel Jones is retained, because Lord knows you don't have a plan B right now. So let's say he is back. What is the difference between being medically cleared and being 100% of who you once were?
Right. No, I think it's a huge storyline. One thing to mention, too, Jeff, you brought up just play calling in general. We did see 2 head coaches yesterday say that they will no longer call plays.
Yeah.
That would be Dave Canales in Carolina, which, just to refresh everybody on Carolina, they made the playoffs. And, it was a year 2 for him. He called the plays in Tampa. And Bryce Young had some sort of resurrection. And then Sean Payton, long time, obviously.
That's the one that surprised
play
me.
caller and head coach, saying that he will not. And Shane Steichen was asked about that. He did say he will continue to call plays. I know it's a hot-button topic I think a lot of people bring up with Shane. I've always felt like his best attribute as a head coach is probably as a play caller, more so than maybe overseeing the entire operation and everything that goes with being a head coach. And so he will continue to do that. And, again, there were some conversations obviously league-wide with some coaches. And, You know, you can make a great case for coaches that don't do it. You can make a great case for coaches that do it. You know, you think of the best coaches in the NFL right now, some sort of list. It's what, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Andy Reid. All three of them call plays and are the head coaches. So I don't think it's a given that you just all of a sudden give up play calling and then all of a sudden, boom, you become this great head coach necessarily. But for those curious, Shane Steichen will continue to call plays.
Yeah, and my guess is when those two organizations, whether it's Carolina or Denver, decided to go that way and those head coaches decided to do that, they probably stepped back and said, you know what, there were certain things that I missed as an overall coach because I was so focused about making sure we had the right personnel and the right play called for this particular defense. Maybe I missed some other things that I should have been paying attention to. And for a guy like Sean Payton, who's been doing it as long as he has, to step back, I thought that was really shocking.
Yeah, I was stunned when he said it. It was actually in the podium right next to when Shane Steichen was about to talk, so just kind of listening to Sean Payton in the background when he said that, I was definitely caught off guard.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think Dave Canales had basically said, too, that by giving up play calling, I think Brad Idzik is going to do it now as offensive coordinator. It'll allow him to just focus on a lot of things at the same time without having to worry. You know, I got the clock going. What's my play call going to be? Oh, I see what they've got their defensive personnel. Here's my offensive personnel. That's a lot of focus and a lot going on in a 35-second period, 40 seconds.
Yeah, the small peeks behind the curtain that Shane Steichen has given us, and I'm like, man, coaching in the NFL is extremely difficult. And honestly, I think there's just more scenarios than even like the NBA, because in the NFL you have to factor in like weather. There's more guys on the field, so there's more variances in where they might be, and like, you know, the 2-minute warning, like there's just so many different variables that don't exist in other sports that make it very, hard, honestly, which is why they have those like game analysts, analytical people to kind of let you know what you're supposed to do.
To that point, though, even though he keeps play calling, one of the announcements they made with the addition of those 5 coaches that they had yesterday that we talked about was a quality control coach. That's kind of what his job is going to be, to pay attention to the overall general thing and say and whisper in the ear, hey, by the way, that corner has just twisted his ankle. He's out on the left side. Those kinds of things. And whether you got 2 timeouts left and, hey, we're running down the clock, whatever it is, there's now he's hired someone specifically to kind of be that quality control guy, right? Don't we remember when, was it Jim Tressel that was hired at one point in time by the Colts to be a quality control guy up in the booth to manage all that kind of stuff?
Mark, did the Browns just get a new quarterback?
They had to. I heard the bell. Move over, Dylan. Get out of the way.
The cowbell in the background from our friends here at the table next to us.
ESPN
Cleveland. James, defensive focus. It seems like it was reiterated yesterday. Speed, specifically in the front 7. I maybe hear a little bit more defensive end than I hear linebacker, but I am curious about linebacker. Linebacker is still an unknown for me, just how much attention it will be given. Just to update everybody on linebacker, Zaire Franklin is under contract, I believe, for 2 more seasons.
Yes.
But, you know, there is some cap relief that could be there. Jermaine Pratt, the other starter, is a free agent. So anything defensively you heard yesterday that caught your ear?
I thought it was interesting when I threw the question at Ballard about the linebackers. How would you evaluate them, both good and bad? And I said both good and bad because it was more bad than good, I would say, at least in coverage. And I thought his response of immediately mentioning Zaire Franklin and how close they are and how much he loves them was interesting, because I think that he knows that there has been a lot of chatter about his future here in Indianapolis. And to me, I wonder if that is a decision that will let us know how serious Chris is about trying to change this franchise or point it in a new direction, because he's at an offseason where there is a realistic possibility and a reasonable decision to be made about the future of Zaire Franklin, about the future of Michael Pittman Jr., and, like, can you move on from some of the guys that are homegrown, that are, you know, for Zaire's sake, kind of a diamond in the rough, considering he's a 7th-round pick and became a second-team All-Pro. But even more than that, how much are you willing to put up with in regard to Zaire? And, again, he has an incredible story, incredible background. He's beat a ton of odds. Like, the fact that he is in the NFL is a miracle, and he's earned everything that he has in his life. But at the same time, feel-good story aside, the production wasn't there last year, but the distractions were. And is that something you're going to continue to put up with when it just doesn't match up. Like Puka Nacua is probably a headache for the Rams, but he's a headache for every other team that has to defend him on Sundays. So you just deal with it.
More like a migraine for every other team on
Exactly,
Sundays, yeah.
but I don't know if, again, the juice is worth the squeeze and all that stuff when it comes to Zaire Franklin. So I'm very curious to see what his future is going forward. But it sounds like Ballard likes him, probably wants him around. But, again, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, you can like the guy, but what are we doing here if he's not playing well enough?
Yeah, I get the vibe defensive end-wise. I could see some swings like we saw last year in the secondary. You know, last year in the secondary, you went out and you paid big money for Javarius Ward. You paid big money for Cam Bynum. I think, and again, the right guys will have to hit the open market. You know, we'll see who gets franchise tagged in the next 6 days, and Trey Hendrickson being one of those names that I know gets brought up a lot with the Colts. But it seems like they feel pretty good about the available bodies that could be there at defensive end, not only in the draft, but also potentially in free agency, which is not always a given. So that is a position that I think certainly they've missed routinely on, and it needs life. It needs injection of fuel, to use the Chris Ballard phrase, and it does sound like they feel pretty good about what could be there, again, draft and free agency.
Here's the thing. You bring up Trey Hendrickson. If they went out and somehow made a move to try and get a Trey Hendrickson, that also affects everything else because they want to make, they want to keep Daniel Jones. That's going to cost them some money. If they're going to keep Alec Pierce, they probably have to put a franchise tag on him, but that's not cheap either. And then they talk about, man, we'd love to keep Michael Pittman Jr. Obviously, you're not going to be able to keep all those guys and work everything else out under the salary cap. So this first week of free agency is going to be fascinating to me to see what the Colts end up doing and how those dominoes fall.
Yeah, it's one of the most unknowns I have been about the Colts walking into a free agency in a while. You know, last year, I think it was a pretty given they were going to make some defensive back moves, but they didn't have the Jones and the Pierce, clouds really hanging over them. I mean, those are still unknowns. It sounds like talks have been positive, and again, the franchise tag deadline is in 6 days, so 2 weeks from today, the new league year officially begins, so you have to get something done by 2 weeks from today, or else they will be free to sign with others officially. But then again, after that, what can you do? How much focus does defensive line get? To James's point, what do you do at linebacker? What about Nick Cross? Cornerback, we've debated this in a while. And again, the biggest news item from yesterday to me was the fact that Javarius Ward is going to play in 2026. On paper, Sauce Gardner, Javarius Ward, Kenny Moore, and let's throw Justin Wally in there. That's a pretty good 3-4-man cornerback group.
I think Shane called it elite yesterday, didn't he?
Now, again, Javarius Ward's concussion situation can't be ignored, but are you in a position to properly provide insurance there? Like, when you start listing everything you need to do this offseason, Jones, Pierce, defensive end, what are you going to do at wideout? What are you going to do at linebacker? Where does cornerback insurance come into play there? I think that's what makes it difficult, and part of that is just the puzzle piece of the hard cap of the NFL. This isn't, frankly, it's not college football. It's not the Wild Wild West where you just go to a different booster and say, hey, you got the money? Come on down. We need help at this position.
So we had Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard speak to the media at large yesterday. Chris Ballard's going to come. Shane, by the way, spent some time with JMV. If you missed that interview, go back and listen to it on the website. 1075thefan.com, and then Chris Ballard will join us towards the end of the show today at 9:45. Once we speak to Chris, what are you guys most interested in here at the Combine today?
I would say beyond trying to get little other nuggets or clarification from things from yesterday, I forgot to ask about Nick Cross. I know that's a player you traded up for a few years ago. He's proven to be a good player. So when it comes to unrestricted free agents, I know all the chatter and all the talk is about, and rightfully so, Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, but where does he factor into the equation, knowing that, again, you have to spend money to get those two guys back, but Nick Cross has probably earned a contract, maybe not here, but he's earned a nice payday, I believe, from someone, but is it here?
We haven't even talked about the offensive line. They got a decision or two to make there too, James.
I would say so, but I think for the most part they've kind of been building towards transitioning for the last few years, Jeff. I know Braden Smith is one. Again, you would probably like to have him back. I mean, Braden Smith is a good player, a very good player in the NFL still. And I get that he missed the last, four games of the year, Kevin, maybe it might have been 3 on injured reserve. But Chris did update and say he's healthy now and he's fine. But, again, they've drafted Jalen Travis. They tried to prepare for this with Blake Freeland. That didn't work out a couple years ago, Kevin. But my point is, you have to get cheaper somewhere, so is that where they get cheaper on the offensive line? Because I would think the other 4 spots along that offensive line outside of right tackle are pretty solidified.
Yeah, I really don't think there's much question about the O-line. To me, the Braden Smith situation just seems like we got to pass the torch. We can't pay everybody, premium money and first-round picks galore. To me, it looks like a Jalen Travis situation ready to take over, and then the rest of the 4 guys are all under contract. So I don't think – offensively, I really struggle to find big questions, assuming Jones and Pierce are back. Pittman would be the one. But, running back, you're kind of nitpicking there. Tight ends, Mo Alley Cox and Drew Ogletree are free agents. Again, it's not the most pressing thing in the world.
Can I stand on my soapbox and with Chris Ballard and say
now's the time.
You should probably bring Mo Alley Cox back? And I know people are like, why? I do think they need a blocking tight end, whether it's Mo Alley Cox or somebody else. I think that's one of the more underrated elements of a good offense that to, most of us watching the game, we're not looking at the second tight end and seeing if he's blocking the edge right or whatever, or getting on the second level with that linebacker.
Jonathan
we talk
Taylor
about the run
is.
game. Yeah, we talk about the run game. I think Mo Alley Cox is a very big part of why, and I'm not saying it's all his, to his credit, but he's been a big factor, I think, in why they've had success running the ball when they've had it. So it's a sneaky need. It's not going to be on my top 5 list of things that have to be corrected, Jeff, but it is one of those things that has flown under the radar. We don't spend all day on the airwaves talking about, secondary tight ends, but they need one for sure.
One other thing I wanted to mention, and this is from Shane Steichen yesterday. And, again, anytime you hear Ballard and Steichen talk, frankly, I think Ballard is much more candid than Steichen is. I thought one thing that I agreed wholeheartedly with Shane, this goes back to a conversation, James, you might have been out this day that Jeff and I got into the debate of, okay, what is the good and what is the bad, and when you evaluate your GM and your head coach, just from an annual basis. It's an exercise I do every year, and I post a story on 1075thefan.com. Just talk wins and losses. Okay, what have they won at? What have they lost at? Obviously, the losses currently outweigh the wins. But, for example, last year you would say, hey, Daniel Jones was a win in terms of how he elevated his game. One thing I think in Steichen's resume that the Colts really struggle with, and this gets more into the head coach hat he wears, not the offensive play caller hat, the Colts don't win enough ugly games. They don't. If their offense has an off day, they lose. Just simply. Like, if you look at their record, when they score 20 points or less, it is a very poor record. And over a 17-game schedule, inevitably, you've got games that look like Seattle did this year, where it's a struggle to get to 17. It's a struggle to get to 16 maybe. And sometimes 16 and 13 is what it has to get done for you to exit there with a W in the column. And, again, over 17 weeks, those games pop up. There's not a ton of them, but there could be 3 or 4 of them. And if you look at this team that's kind of been stuck in purgatory, stuck in the middle, you flip 3 or 4 of those, or if you just flip a couple of them, you might be talking about a different conversation. So for Shane to kind of hammer that home yesterday on a couple different points, I think was needed. This franchise, in particular, this team under him, they have got to win uglier, better, and they just haven't done that.
You bring that up, and the great example of the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago when they go to the Super Bowl, they won all those one-score games. Last year they didn't win any one-score games, and they ended up out of the playoffs. Winning ugly games is in today's NFL, you have to, Kevin. You just have to.
You bring up the Chiefs. That's the perfect example of another time where Colts are leading late. You got to get some stops. Daniel Jones playing on a broken leg, and you can't get off the field against that team. Let him come down, get the game-tying field goal, and then win in overtime. So there were too many of those moments throughout those last 7 games of losing where you can point to certain moments where you got to what's the saying in hockey or soccer? Stand on your head, and they couldn't do it. And
need more Connor Hella books.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe I will say this, as far as Daniel Jones goes, keep all your teeth. You've given enough to this franchise.
Did I see this correctly? And I have to check myself. I feel like I sound like one of my parents here because I feel like everything's AI generated. Mark Dykton, you might know this. Was there really a Jack Hughes that got cut from the 1980 Miracle on Ice team?
I actually don't know that. I'll have to look that up.
I don't know that either. Where'd you see that?
I saw somebody sent this to me yesterday.
If you say it's on Facebook, it ain't real, brother.
And there's a clip in Miracle where they show, the assistant coach has literally taken a Sharpie and he's crossing Jack Hughes' name off the roster of available prospects. He's actually taken his name in tape off the locker. Nice little cinema there. And I thought there was a Jack Hughes. I believe he went to Harvard, maybe.
That is correct. It says he was the last player cut before the 1980 roster was finalized.
Yeah, that defenseman named John Francis Jack Hughes.
How about that? So this is real. This is not – I didn't get duped.
A detail accurately portrayed in the 2000 movie Miracle.
No AI slop on this end,
No
Kevin.
dupe. I'm a little nervous here. April Fool's is upcoming. I'm afraid the show got duped a few times last year on April Fool's.
Especially during NFL free agency. Yeah, you got to check those boxes in spelling.
Here's the clip for you, KB.
Jack Hughes. Sharpie, right?
Yep. Wow.
Look at that.
I feel like this is like when they said The Simpsons predicted the future.
Well, apparently James's zinger just knocked the boys off the air, so we'll take a quick timeout, get these technical difficulties taken care of, and we will reconnect on the other side. You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis. You're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
Sorry we lost you there for a moment, but we have reestablished contact, and we are ready to go as we get ready to talk to Thad Matta coming up at 8:45 now this morning. And then at 9:45, Chris Ballard expected to drop by. In the meantime, here's your missing checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
On a day where the NFL Combine opened up its doors for another go-round here in downtown Indianapolis, maybe the biggest news of the day came from Rick Carlisle and the Indiana Pacers on this show yesterday, Kevin Bowen.
Yeah, certainly strongly disagreed with the $100,000 fine that the NBA laid down on the Pacers about 2 weeks ago. We touched on it a whole lot in the 7:30 segment there. Yeah, that was definitely the big news item from yesterday. Rick did not hold back, basically standing up for Aaron Nesmith in particular and the lack of, I guess, full process the NBA had in deciding to fine the Pacers, and the accusation of the NBA saying that they could have medicated Aaron Nesmith to play. So very strong comments from Rick Carlisle. Again, that is up on the podcast from yesterday, and if you missed it, 7:30 segment today.
All right, on the court last night, Pacers lose to the Sixers 135-114. Micah Potter had a career night, 23 points on 11 of 13 shooting. But talk about shooting, James. The Pacers started off 6 of 11 from three-point range last night. They proceeded to go 1 for 21 the rest of the way. That was they just couldn't score baskets.
Fourth straight loss. I believe they're 15-44, worst record in the Eastern Conference, second worst record in the NBA.
All right, Andrew Nembhard also scored 23 points on the game, but they'll try it again tomorrow night at home against the Charlotte Hornets. Meanwhile, college basketball last night. Northwestern used a terrific and ferocious second-half rally to beat Indiana 72-68. Nick Martinelli, their best player, scored 28 points, and it felt like all 28 of them came in about a 4-minute span where he just couldn't miss. That overcame Lamar Wilkerson's 18. James, they had a chance, Indiana did, to tie it late on a three-point shot with a couple of seconds remaining by Tucker DeVries. Looked like he was clearly fouled on the play, and yet no whistle, and you end up with a free throw and a final score of 72-68.
Yeah, that was a horrible missed call. And I get that they shouldn't have blown the lead. Got to make baskets. You got to put them away. But whoever missed that call should not be reffing a Big Ten basketball game in the near future.
Also last night, Duke, an easy win over Notre Dame, 100-56 in a game probably most notable for the fact that head coach Micah Shrewsbury tore his Achilles tendon, Kevin.
Horrific on the floor for the Irish, and yes, quite the scene. Quite honestly, probably the accurate depiction of Notre Dame's season. Micah Shrewsbury hurt late in the first half, as wild as that sounds. Boot, crutches post-game, and Notre Dame got obliterated by Duke.
Maddie had to call Kevin out of the garage because he was going to cut his Achilles so that Micah could have that one.
I thought about cutting something else off, like Mike Vrabel, who said about the Super Bowl.
I ain't never thought about that.
That escalated quickly.
No, I don't know if I need it anymore.
Miami of Ohio stayed undefeated last night, Kevin Bowen.
Yeah, very smooth transition there, Jeff. Yes, Miami of Ohio, yes, indeed. Eastern Michigan, I believe. I think they've got the directional Michigan schools this week there. So I believe the 7th team since 1985 to be 28-0 on a year. So Travis Steele and company, 3 more to go to have a regular season undefeated year.
All right, Butler plays at Villanova later on tonight, 6:30 airtime, 7 o'clock tip right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Thad Matta, the head coach, will join us in a few minutes to talk about that one. And I would say I don't know, would you call it a late season surge by Butler? They've been playing much better over the last couple of weeks. Last week and a half, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if 2 games qualify as a surge, but, definitely better
take it.
For them. And, I did see Akeem Gillespie in the Star, had a one-on-one with Grant Linedecker, and Thad Matta will be back for next season. I know that was a question some people had there. So the head coach of the Butler Bulldogs will join us in a few. Going back to Indiana, what do you guys think that does to the old resume?
I think look, they've got 3 games left. One of them is against Michigan State. That would obviously be a huge quad 1 win. Then they might have a chance or 2 in the upcoming Big Ten tournament. But I think after last night, they probably need at least another quad 1 win, don't they, at this point in time?
I'll probably go there as well. You can't lose against the nerds. Can't lose against the nerds of Northwestern. But jokes aside, that's just a bad loss.
That's 6 straight losses to the nerds.
No, that's a bad loss. And I thought Lamar Wilkerson, after the game, his comments about we just cannot do that and how mad he was sort of the story of that game and perhaps their season, because that's going to be the one you look back on when Joe Lenardi's, doing all his bracketology and you're on the outside looking in, you're hoping that you get, a chance. That's the one you're going to look back on and say, boy, we had that game, or we should have had that game.
Boy, that alley-oop, him to Sam Alexis there late in the game was one of the wilder, awful plays I've seen for Indiana this season. Honestly, kind of brought back memories a little bit to the previous era and some of the guard decision-making they had there. It was a huge sequence in the game. Nick Martinelli got a wide-open 3 after that. And one thing to note, too, about Indiana, we've seen now these second-half collapses in several games this season. And, Darren DeVries, and I know John's been all over the lack of playing time for Trent Sisley, but he has really not been a guy to go to his bench much at all. And, this gets into, I guess, the hiring of Ryan Carr we saw, from earlier in the week, that announcement of your roster, your allocation of whatever their roster is, $10 million, doesn't seem to be used in the best way possible.
All right, high school basketball last night, some interesting notes. Hamilton Southeastern wins its 7th in a row. They beat Lawrence North 76-70. Number 1 in the 4A, Fishers finished its regular season undefeated with an 82-52 win over North Central. Mount Vernon defeated Westfield 63-55. Also last night, Carmel defeated Crispus Attucks by a score of 60-49. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
Yeah, shout out to KB95 in the chat. Said Adam Silvers thinks Micah Shrewsbury should suck it up. I agree. Get out of there, Coach. What are you doing?
Mark, you kiss my ass. St. Pete race for IndyCar this weekend. I saw John Gruden going to be the green flag waiver down there. So IndyCar season going to open up here. Obviously, a lot of storylines. Certainly a year to remember for Alex Palou like none other, and a year to forget for Penske. So
I can't tell you how excited I am to get out there and wave that flag.
Open it up, St. Pete.
You got more? You got more?
I'm going to teach these guys Spider 2 Y banana while I'm down there. I think that Alex Palou guy, he's a gunner, man. He can get things done.
Jeez, he is great at that.
That's pretty good, Mark.
That is really good.
I love your Belichick a lot, but that Gruden is right up there.
Thank you.
One quick note before we move on and get to Thad Matta in a moment. Did you see Lindsey Vonn talking about almost losing that leg in the aftermath of the crash at the Olympics in the downhill yesterday?
I did not, no.
She said, in a weird way, first of all, she said she does not believe that the ACL impacted that missed gate. But the crash was so bad. What was fortunate, because she went to the Olympics with the ACL, they brought her very highly touted surgeon on the trip. She said if he hadn't been there to do the surgery in the aftermath because of compartmental syndrome, there was a real chance she would have lost the leg.
Wow.
How crazy is that,
Yeah, that
in the
is
aftermath
wild.
of stuff?
Wild.
We'd been talking about Lindsay a lot right during the Olympics before, and I thought, man, you talk about the postscript for how that whole thing plays out. She feels that if they had not brought her surgeon, who's regarded as one of the best in the world, that they probably wouldn't have been able to save her leg because it was suffering severe compartmental syndrome.
I'm more thinking about the ability to travel your doctor with you. I feel like trying to make a doctor's appointment is the hardest thing I can make.
Well, you become the best in the world at what you do, and they'll do that for you.
That is true. I think about that all the time when, like, hockey players get their teeth knocked out. And I'm like, boy, if that happened to me, I might have to go toothless for about 2 weeks before I get somebody who's in my network.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, Johnny Furphy's, his surgical torn ACL has been repaired by, this world-class doctor. I'm like, man, I guess, pays to have some money, right?
By the way, he did get his surgery done yesterday. That was officially announced by the Pacers, and it was lost in all the other, news that Kevin was, poking the bear a little bit with Rick Carlisle. But, yeah, I do want to mention that he had the surgery, and now he is on the road to recovery.
Well, good for him. That's good to hear, because they saw some good things out of him this year, and I think he's going to be a good person to have on that roster moving forward, obviously. So just thought there were some interesting things there. To your point, though, Kevin, we know that there's always doctors on the sidelines for NFL games. You think they have a dentist out there, too? They probably do, don't they?
I would think it'd be
The
close
official
by.
team dentist
Close
for
by.
every
Hell,
team.
they needed an eye doctor, as crazy as that sounds. Your vibes on the Anthony Richardson comments from yesterday, James. I know asked for maybe some clarity from some of those comments, but what did you hear in regards to Anthony Richardson and his future?
My interpretation is it won't be here. I think when Chris Ballard gave his first answer, when I asked directly, does he have a future in Indianapolis? And he says he has a future, and I can't see what the future holds. I'm like, boy, I don't know if I want to hear that from the girlfriend in the future. Oh, boy, yeah. Well, what do we got going on? We got plans? Oh, well, we'll see what the future holds. Not great answer. Not a great answer. And then to follow up to that, when you're asking him directly, he just says, I believe in him. Well, yeah, but, like, what does that exactly mean? He has no clear path to starting here. So I think that he likes Anthony as a person, probably still likes him as a player, but once you're trying to, get an multi-year deal done with Daniel Jones, and they continue to sing the praises of Riley Leonard, are we going to be sitting up here in the fall trying to see, or in the summer trying to see if there's a QB2 competition? That's unrealistic to me. So that's my interpretation of everything that went down yesterday.
Yeah, my feel is Riley Leonard will be taking first-team reps here in the spring, and then whenever Daniel Jones is back, he'll obviously, take the starting reins from there. I'll be curious to see if they make a move for a veteran quarterback at all, not even one of major substance, but just another arm. But, how Richardson, I guess, exits, as weird as that might sound, is, I think, of note to me because, yes, James, I would echo what you heard as well. It does sound like this will be happening somewhere else. But, what do you get for him? It's a $10.8 million cap hit for next season. That's a big cap hit. And especially for a guy that, we'll see how other teams view him, but, obviously he's not going to be the starter here in Indianapolis.
I can't see that there's much of a market for him coming off that injury. At best, modest success. I mean, they were 8-7 when he was a starting quarterback. I don't know how much that had to do with him necessarily sometimes. What would you be willing to give up if you were – you'd wait to see if he's even available on the open market, right?
His value at best in my eyes is probably a fifth-round pick, at best.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of teams that have, gobbles of day 3 picks.
Yeah.
But to me, you can't ignore the cap.
That's
that's
the big thing.
It's not just you're getting the guy for whatever, making Riley. Riley Leonard makes 10 times less than Anthony Richardson next year, which when you kind of put it in that light, I think it really stands out.
Well, and they're good, and I make 100 times less.
They're good backup quarterbacks, Kevin, that don't make that kind of money.
Yeah, I mean, there are some backup quarterbacks that make notable money, but yeah, $10.8 million. Yeah, it would be definitely on the expensive end for that.
You were mentioning Aiden Fisher?
Yeah, Aiden Fisher. You got some prospects speaking on the other side of the curtains. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, that's what today we start to get into. I think a few more coaches and GMs talk today, not many. But the defensive prospects will talk. Reminder, Fernando Mendoza, 8 o'clock tomorrow, 8 o'clock Friday. Mark, you say Dane Brugler, 8 o'clock tomorrow to talk draft with us.
Correct. 8 o'clock tomorrow for him, and then 8 o'clock on Friday for Field Yates.
There we go. Thank you for that, Mark. And again, Chris Ballard will join us here live on set coming up 9:45 today. And, Jeff, you said we're telling the national people to kiss our you-know-what. We're going in at 10 o'clock.
We will talk to Chris Ballard until he's done talking to us. How about that?
Well, that could be kind of quick.
Well,
oh, no. Brother.
That's a wide receiver question. He's out.
Yeah.
I do.
Don't tank our interview.
I said it's Chris yesterday. I do very much appreciate his time with us, so thank you for that.
We got Thad Matta, head coach of the Butler Bulldogs, coming up right around the corner. Stay with us on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Live from the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
Talk a little college basketball right now. Thad Matta going to join us in a moment from Butler. Talk about their game with Villanova tonight and how things are going down the stretch here. But Kevin's very possible that, in fact, probable at this point in time, I don't know, depending on what Indiana does over the next couple of games. With the Final Four being here, obviously we don't think anybody other than Purdue's got a shot locally to get there. But is Purdue going to be the only tournament team from our area when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I mean, from a men's standpoint, you're going to need one of these mid-majors, I guess, to go on a surprising run. You know, none of them, I think, are in a position. I'm talking the IU Indies, the Ball State, shout out, they got an overtime win, but they're not really in a position. Purdue-Fort Wayne, I think, is having a decent year, but Indiana State, Evansville, Valpo. And Greg Rakestraw can confirm this on Friday. It has been I think it's been over a decade since we've had a true mid-major from Indiana make the tournament. And you think about it, we've got Valpo, Evansville, Indiana State, IU Indy, Ball State, Fort Wayne.
Indiana State. A couple years ago, right? No, they didn't. That's right.
No, boy,
they didn't. That's right.
Sounded like you're twisting the knife there, JMB,
no.
with that comment.
No, I was thinking about it. They had that great season, and they got left out. Yeah.
I'll let you two settle that. But I think it is actually Indiana State, but you got to go back over a decade for the last time. So I don't want to act like last night's loss just removes Indiana's just done. But Michigan State on Sunday and at Ohio State, that could be the real big one. If you look at bubbles right now, Ohio State is right there. So if you're talking about a game between two head-to-head bubble teams, particularly on the road for Indiana, if you somehow could get that would be huge.
And then maybe win one in the Big Ten tournament too?
Well, yeah, but their Big Ten tournament history is about as strong as me I'll stop there.
How much history do you count, though, the fact that everything's brand new? Coach, players, everything for Indiana this year. Do we – I mean, they're following in the footsteps, but they don't really have –
it all looks the same to me. I mean, we have debated Indiana on the bubble for 13 straight years here, and now we're doing it again.
Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. The head coach of the Butler Bulldogs joins us, Thad Matta, here on a Wednesday morning. Coach, I'm guessing you're waking up in Philadelphia this morning, getting ready to go for a game tonight. How you doing?
Doing well out here in the city of brotherly love.
Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the love out there getting ready for this game tonight?
I am. We're going to need all we can, that's for sure.
How would you describe this season so far as we head down the stretch? What's it been like for you as a coach to watch this group, the injuries you've had, the ups, the downs, losing streaks, winning streaks? How would you describe this amongst all the other seasons you've had in your career? How would you say this one's going?
I tell you, it's funny because I told somebody the other day that this has been one of the most challenging seasons I've ever had, and just from I felt like when we broke camp this summer into the fall that this team had a chance to be an NCAA tournament team. I really did, and we've come back from West Virginia and all of a sudden Jalen's having season-ending surgery and. But it's by the same token that it's been very gratifying because I think these guys, it's amazing how much they just continue to work, how much better they've gotten. And you look at guys and just the growth that they've made, and from that perspective, it's been a really enjoyable season for me.
Again, 2 wins in a row for the Bulldogs. They are at Villanova, very good Villanova team here coming up tonight, 7 o'clock, FS1. Coach, we saw this morning in the Indianapolis Star, Akeem Gillespie covers you guys for the Star. He spoke with Grant Leindecker, your AD, and mentioned in there that you will be back. It sounds like the NIL situation, in the first 3 years wasn't where it needed to be for you, but this past year felt like it was in a much healthier spot. We've seen a lot of coaches, frankly, with your resume or have coached as long as you have, maybe not want to experience this new era of minor league basketball is probably the best way to put it, but this new era of college basketball. You clearly have wanted to get back into it and want to continue to do that. Why have you wanted, I would call it a challenge, that the new era of college basketball is?
It's definitely a challenge, and from this perspective, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and we've got great kids, and I enjoy being around them and that sort of thing. as long as we're going to continue to make strides to be competitive, that gives me a challenge. That gives me something to wake up and say, okay, we're in the game. And it hasn't been that way the entire time. There's no doubt about that. But I think Grant's doing a heck of a job, and hopefully he can continue to help us to help Butler.
Again, we're talking to Thad Matta, head coach of the Butler men's basketball team. Thad, along those lines, when you've been doing this for so long, what has changed throughout the years, and what would you say are like, hey, every day that ends in Y, this is how it's going to be?
Well, the change is how long are you guys on this morning?
We'll go forever for you, Coach.
It's so different just in terms of how it used to be, and that was building relationships, gaining trust in kids and their families, and selling the academic benefits of what a university can do for a guy for the next 40 years of his life. You would talk about the developmental piece of what we're going to do different than everybody else in terms of making you the best player that you can possibly be. And those days, that doesn't exist anymore. I think, some it does, but for the vast majority, it's how much money can I get? And, then they all want the right situation. Nobody wants to have anybody else at their position or anything like that. But I do think the things that are the same is, hey, tonight at 7 o'clock, I'm going to coach a basketball game. Our guys are going to play a game. And that, to me, is kind of the exciting part of it in terms of strategizing, coaching, and doing the best that we can. Villanova's really good. We got to play well tonight.
Talking to the coach of the Butler Bulldogs, that, of course, Thad Matta on the Payless Liquors hotline. When you look at this type of season and where you are this time of year, what's your emphasis to the players going into these last few games and then getting ready for the Big East tournament?
Honestly, keep getting better and have fun. Let's enjoy every day. And like I've said, these guys come in every day to practice, and right now it's really hard for us to practice. It's the oddest thing because we don't have enough guys, and we can't get anybody else injured. So we do a ton of shooting and coverages against the scout team and like a lot of 5-on-0. But my thing is, hey, let's enjoy this. Things haven't gone the way we all thought they were going to, but we're getting better. Enjoy it and see what we can do.
That last one from me, and I know you guys have a home game coming up next week, but you honored your seniors in that Xavier game, and what Michael Ajayi has brought. I know you've touched on it a couple different times with us here, but from afar, and I go back to the Providence game, your first Big East game of the year when he got on the floor in double overtime, and you got that ball out to Evan Haywood for the three. It just seems like he has really stood for a lot of what you want to be about from an effort standpoint, and I would assume that's hugely beneficial when your best player shows that type of effort.
Well, there's no question, and Michael's been amazing from the day he's got here, and he's relentless in his work ethic. He wants to play this game for a long time at the highest level, and just from I think Finn's our leading scorer, but second leading scorer, leading rebounder, he leads us in assists, he leads us in steals. It's amazing the passion that he plays with. We ask him, like, hey, by the way, we need you to score and rebound, but you also have to guard the other team's best player for 40 minutes. And he just doesn't. And, he's we've been blessed to have him. There's no doubt about that.
Last one from me, Thad, and along those same lines about Michael Ajayi, when you're trying to find a guy like him in the portal, and like you said, the money is a factor, and the fit and my opportunity, but what kind of tells you that beyond some of the maybe superficial things, I don't want to act like money's superficial because we probably all would like a little bit more of it, but maybe along those lines, what stands out to you, what traits do you look for to find guys like that you can point at, even a season like this where you might have struggled a little bit, but you can point to the next people that are coming in and say, hey, if you want an opportunity to be like that guy, here's what I need from you.
Yeah, I think this. Michael has a really, really good agent, and they were looking for the right situation for him to come in and make an impact. And I think they wanted the right fit because in his time at Pepperdine, Gonzaga, he went to Gonzaga and they had like three guys like him, and obviously we didn't have three guys like him, and I think he's came in and done a really good job of utilizing what we needed, but he's also gotten better. He's a better player than when he started the season.
Coach, always good to talk to you. Good luck tonight. We'll be listening for you here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. We appreciate you being here every week, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Thanks.
Butler Bulldogs Thad Matta, presented by Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus, in business since the year before Hinkle Fieldhouse opened, 1927. Lazy Boy, Indiana-made Smith Brothers Furniture, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic mattresses. Free delivery to the entire Indianapolis metro area, but better than that, it's worth the drive to Columbus. ThompsonFurniture.net. Check them out. In the next hour, we'll talk to Chris Ballard. We're live from the Combine. We'll have more on Rick Carlisle and the Pacers, his little dust-up with the NBA. Some of your comments as well, 239-1070, coming your way next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Live from the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
Oh, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. Pour a cheerful toast and fill it happy anniversary.
Look at you, Mark Dykton.
Do you know why I'm playing any of this? Happy anniversary, boys. It's the 1-year anniversary of this show.
Oh, there we go.
Getting off the ground.
Are we off the ground? We're good?
I think we are off the ground.
One
No,
year
we're doing
of
well.
James
We took
Boyd's
off.
Mark's
greatness.
actually doing well.
Yeah, I came here. I came to conquer. I'm getting up the totem pole.
You're the
a
new
little
king
bit.
of all media, right?
Yeah, man. Thank you for my opportunities, fellas.
No, it's
Good thing we're in
actually
this
going very
ballroom
well.
to keep the ego in there.
It's actually going very well.
I
so
told you,
it's,
being humble is for losers and broke people. Hey, that's the story of life, man. Breaking news here on the show.
I like it. Well, happy anniversary to you too, Mark Dykton. We didn't get you anything.
That's okay. Kevin
No,
bought
I
me
got him
a-
I got him that Hammond
Oh,
shirt,
is that
right?
what that was for now?
Well, you
In
also got
retrospect.
Venmo'd this morning about $45.
Oh, did you Venmo me?
Uh-huh.
Thank you for that.
I was like, sorry, your mic is cutting off, Mark. I didn't hear that part.
How's that work? You get somebody an anniversary present, but then you expect a Venmo back in return.
And here's
Hey,
the
balance.
bill. Oh, it's a new quarterback for the Browns. Who we got now? Boy, they're making moves.
That's what we do right there. Justin writing in on the fan text line this morning at 239-1070. He says, LOL, I just have to say we all hear that the Colts have all these really good players. When does it actually translate to the field and become a good team? LOL. I just feel like we don't want to say truly anything bad, and we're just going to end up with the same results next year or the next two. Well, certainly there are good players that the Colts have, and there are certain spots where there's more depth than others, but it gets right back down to the two positions that make a big difference in the NFL, James Boyd. Quarterback has been an issue, whether it was injury or otherwise last year. And leading up to Daniel Jones, it was a revolving door of guys since Andrew Luck, and no pass rush from the defensive end area. That's really where the problems have been. But, Kevin, you highlighted what I think Shane Steichen called what could be an elite secondary yesterday. Always get a lot of credit for the offensive line. Jonathan Taylor obviously gets a lot of love. We like what's happened with Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce, but to his point, when does that translate into getting to the postseason?
Yeah, it's obviously been a question now of a 5-year playoff drought, and 11. I mean, we can go over it endlessly, and it does sound like the tone of the offseason as we start to turn the page to that is the defensive front, and again, injecting some speed specifically into that group. James, I thought you pointed out well, and Ballard definitely agreed of it's not like you can just get younger everywhere, especially when you don't have a first-round pick.
That was driving me crazy thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't pick till 47. And, one thing that Ballard mentioned, and, he oftentimes jokes about trading back. He jokes about it. He was rather committal to it yesterday where he was like, there's a good chance we will trade back. It's something we haven't mentioned yet, but I can't recall in his now 10 combines where he's been maybe that committal
forthcoming.
About we'll probably trade back.
Yeah, I thought he was thinking of us being in that media room over at the complex when we're tired of each other on day 3 and wanted to make us sit there just a little bit longer and type up a few things a little bit longer. But I look at it like this, Kevin. The trading back gives you more darts at the board to perhaps, get more talent, obviously. But part of me is like, man, if you were as close as you all say you were, like if all of you are kind of evaluating this team based off the first 10 games, then is it crazy for me to suggest that maybe you can look at moving on from some future draft capital to – you already have, but I mean, like, would you pair a day 3, day 2 pick for next year or whatever to move up in this year's draft? Like, in my opinion, like, what are they actually trying to target and go after this year? Because if you tell us, okay, well, we were 8-2, we were pretty good, that's fine, but you finished 8-9. So are you the team that's, which Ballard said, and we'll press him on it here on the show for sure, were you the top 4 team that you said you were that first half? And how close are you to being that now that you try to bring everybody back, or at least bring back some of the big pieces, Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones? Or is it a bigger runway to rebuild this team? Because in my opinion, we cannot be going into next year and in the fall, and I'm hearing you say, well, we're rebuilding, or we're retooling, or we're going to see what we are. Like, man, you got to be saying we need to be in contention. I mean, it's 10 years of this, and 5 years and not any playoffs. So I know that's no GM and no coach, Jeff, is going to commit to saying that, but gosh darn it, man, what else are you playing for at this point?
Well, you look at the division, too. We talk about this over and over. Clearly, Jacksonville took a step forward last year, and maybe Trevor Lawrence is the franchise quarterback they've been looking for forever. Liam Cohn did a nice job of getting them a big step forward. The Texans, they have who they think is their quarterback. They have a terrific defense, I think a pretty good head coach. And, the Titans, who knows what they're doing and how long it's going to take them to kind of get back into the mix. And at the first, in the first 9-10 games of the season last year, we thought, okay, the Colts are here. They're competitive. And then injuries, and it all just fell away and all those things. But at the end of the day, when you start this 2026 season, Jacksonville didn't go anywhere. Texans didn't go anywhere. And we have so many questions about the Colts, Kevin. And what are we saying a year from now? We're back here next year for our second anniversary. What are we saying about the Colts then? What's the best case scenario? Daniel Jones comes back healthy. They get Alec Pierce to have a tremendous year. The secondary stays healthy, and somehow in the draft they find an edge rusher. Is that what's all going to happen?
I just love the Phillip Rivers rendition there from James Boyd giving us a gosh darn it. I thought that was very well done.
He learned.
He sounded like an SEC football coach. He sounded like Phillip
Yeah,
Rivers.
I still got a little bit of that Sunday school in me from Grandma. So.
Getting ready for it. To go back, James, you brought up the draft and trade up or trade back, or, do you trade future picks?
Like how aggressive are you?
Yeah, I think a lot of your aggression is going to have to come in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
And, again, that is going to have to involve the likelihood of, A, restructuring some contracts or just flat-out cutting guys, which would be very foreign to Chris Ballard and how he has operated here through the first 9 years of his, GM resume. But, trading up, I mean, you just said you already don't have your first-round pick for next year.
But if
you're Carlisle Gordon, are you going to say, hey, yeah, go ahead, trade next year's second-round pick while you're at it? You're going to leave a new GM, no first, second, and then I hear him say trade back yesterday, and I'm like, at some point, there is enough of the trading back. You have got to sit there at 47 overall, or where they're at in the third round, and say, all right, this is as quality of a dart as we're going to get. We need to hit on it, we need to identify it, and we need to make that pick. The constant trading back has gotten you where? To this point. And I think there are times as a franchise where maybe your overall 53-man roster needs more depth, and so the trading back element makes some sense, but I don't think that's the situation that you're in right now.
So here's my question, and I've thought about this. With Chris Ballard going to the final year of his contract, there's no guarantee he'll be brought back next year. We say that every year, and then he's here. But for what it's worth, he's going to the final year of his contract for the first time since he's been in Indianapolis. That's part of it. The other part is, okay, if this is his last year here, how aggressive does he want to be with the team that he's already built as of right now? Versus, since you already gave up 2 first-round picks, in my mind, I'm thinking the hard reset for this franchise needs to happen in 2028 when you get all your picks back. Because, and I'm not saying I'm advocating we're going to have another year in 2027, but I think they're kind of like in this weird, I don't know if it's a question in there, but like, what is the balance of he's going into his final year, but also as a franchise in 2028, that to me is probably the best opportunity to restart. Because 2027 is a weird year to me. Like, you already have this team, you've given up first-round picks, you're kind of pigeonholed into 2028 anyway, but your GM's going into his last, year. So if you do hire a new GM next year, how long of a runway do you give them when they don't have anything until 2028? Like, that to me is probably the question.
Here's another question for you, Kevin.
They're in a weird spot.
What if this year they don't win the division, but they do make a wild card game and they lose in the wild card? Is that enough for Carlisle Gordon to say, hey, we've made strides, we're moving forward?
Yeah, I hate to cop out. I'd have to obviously see how it plays out. What exactly, how do you get into the postseason? How does Daniel Jones play? So on and so forth. I think I made my stance pretty clear a few months ago. To me, I don't think 2 months should override 8 years. but it did. So now fast forward to next year. If you go, 10-7 and make the wild card, to your point, now you're weighing, 1 year based off the rest of the resume. To me, if Mike Woodson would have randomly made the tournament late in his IU tenure, would that have all of a sudden mean he gets the grace of 3 or 4 more years at it? To me, I think when you're a decade into a sports position like Chris Ballard is, there's a whole lot of the resume you have to go off of where 1 year to me doesn't all of a sudden evaporate everything else. So in particular, I think it's awkward, James, because I think league-wide the Ballard-Steichen dynamic is viewed very differently. I think Shane Steichen is viewed in a much higher light league-wide than Chris Ballard would be in terms of finding another job. So I think that's another element that is awkward of Steichen's year 10 and Steichen's year 4 and Ballard's year 10 to it all. So, it's just.
How close are you? That's the question that Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, they never really want to answer. And I get it. You don't want to pin yourself down in February. But again, you have won nothing over the last 5 years. How long is too long to build the runway? And again, those 10 games were great. I don't want to dismiss that. They had a historic offense. But you are banking on a quarterback who doesn't stay healthy to stay healthy coming off an Achilles. You're banking on a team that doesn't have a defensive end outside of Latu that's worth mentioning here on the show. Those are the types of things where I'm like, how do you figure it out when, again, you say you were close? How do you push forward? Because you know how unforgiving the NFL is. You can think you're close 1 year and you can fall off a cliff the next. So I just wonder, again, how much of that 8-2 start over the first 10 games was a mirage or was it not? Because Chris Ballard said it wasn't. Shane Steichen said that gives him hope. Carlisle Gordon gave Ballard, probably more than Steichen, a chance to remain here based off 10 games. You need 17 to get to the playoffs, and obviously, in my mind, probably more than that. You said you were a contender, you were a top 4 team when you were 8-2. Where are you now?
Well, the whole close debate, this is where I do struggle with it. I look around here and I see, there's a table of the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a table of the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, there's a table of Cincinnati Bengals. Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson. All 3 of them watch the playoffs this year. You think those franchises are saying that we're still close? Peyton Manning went 6-10 in his 4th year. It's not that far-fetched to have a bump-in-the-road year, and obviously some injuries in particular played into several of those quarterback situations there. So, that's where the NFL is always the great league to where since 1990 when the NFL playoffs expanded, we've had 4 new playoff teams every single year. Look at what New England was last year or 2 years ago and look at where they are. Seattle doesn't fall in that same category, but it's not like they were a double-digit win team necessarily in recent years. So it's the league that provides great opportunity, but at the same time, it's a league that really tests you in proving yourself every single year. And so that's where, the how close, it's okay, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but we also have a 9-year resume to go off of it. And the 9-year resume is 0 division titles, 1 playoff win, 2 playoff appearances.
Piggyback off what you were saying, too. You talk about the quarterbacks that didn't even make the playoffs. You got Josh Allen with another disappointment. So earlier we're talking about trying to get past Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, trying to get past Houston and C.J. Stroud. You got to figure 3 of those 4, if not all 4, are going to be right back in the mix again on top of your division in the AFC, right?
I think I've said this now for the last couple of years, but I've never seen the AFC with this much depth in it. When you look at the conference as a whole, and Drake May and New England certainly now feel very much in that category, but when you look at, certainly the West, whether you look at Kansas City, look at Denver, look at the Chargers, that is a legit 3-team division. You look at the North, I know they all kind of cannibalize each other seemingly on a year-in, year-out basis, but Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore are 3 teams. The AFC South, it's probably the deepest we've talked about this division in quite some time with where Houston and Jacksonville. And again, Indy's not that, they're not some basement team like Tennessee. AFC East maybe lacks a little bit more from a depth standpoint. But I just think as a whole, this conference has some legit, 10, 11 team depth, which is not something that I think we've said. When you had the Rivers, Roethlisberger, Manning, Brady era, I think there was a little bit of a fall off to it. Now you might lack the truly, truly elite teams, but I think there's a lot of the second-tier depth to it that makes it challenging to, try and be a playoff team.
Man, a lot of work to do because it's not just about the AFC South. It's when you just line them all up like that.
Well, and this is the other thing. Like, the Colts had a great first 2 months of the season. James, you've just pointed out a lot here over the last 5-10 minutes of, who are you really? Are you the top 4 team, or are you whatever, the team that missed the playoffs? When the season was over and we went through 17 games in 18 weeks, the Colts missed winning their division by 5 games. 5 games. You know how many 5 games is in a 17-game schedule? They missed making the playoffs by 3 games. That's a lot when you consider 17. This is not 2023.
In a league built on parity, yeah.
This is not 2023 where you're a Gardner Minshew, Tyler Goodson completion away from maybe making the playoffs. That was not one of those seasons. As great as the first 2 months were, you fell off Niagara Falls, and that is where I have no idea how Ballard is going to answer a question of how close you are, but to me it's like, well, you missed the playoff, you missed the division by 5 games, you missed the wild card by 3. My eyes, based off that, would say you're not very close.
Yeah, and perhaps the better question is just who are you? And I get that's open-ended and kind of vague in nature, but it's on purpose. Like, who exactly are you? Because
who are you?
Because we can tell you.
Is that another high school basketball song they use when they're announcing the opposing team?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I told you. I think that half the – now I'm going to
bring them out. Bring them out.
With the students
as they're running out of the tunnel.
Oh, yeah. We'll shelve the Ballard conversation because he's going to be here on the show in about 30 minutes. Now I'm on a tangent. When I go to these basketball games and I see, like, the kids run out, I can already tell whether they have an updated audio system or not. Because the updated ones, I'm hearing all these songs that just came out because it's probably Bluetooth. The ones that ain't updated, I guarantee the disc that some kid burned 15 years ago is still in there.
On LimeWire?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they just hit play, and they play the same 10 songs. I mean, I can go back to my high school probably right now, and they're playing the same songs that I burned when I was
doing donate a new
weight
system.
Class.
All I do is win, no matter what.
You're the new king of media.
I went to a public high school. I went to a public high school. They'll be fine.
Are you a fan of when the cheerleaders unveil the starters' last names on the big signs during warm-ups?
Yeah, I think that's cool. I'm also a big fan of, and shout out to the Gary schools. The Gary school cheerleaders, one, they got the best rhythm, and then 2, they got the pettiest chance. I mean, you get the whole, rebound that basketball and all that. They had, I bet you shoot a brick. Boom, 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 boom. I bet you shoot a brick.
And
boom, boom,
great
boom.
stomping.
I'm like, let's go.
Yeah,
I like
stomping.
that better. You shoot that brick.
I think the thing that's crazy to me when you go to some of these games the last several years is how many of these arenas now have
there you go, see?
Big digital video boards now.
Love
Kevin.
me some all the above. Right above it?
Right
there
above
you
it, yeah. They're coming
Lil
out.
Wayne
Here we
Drake.
go. Big Friday
There
night.
you go.
Mark is always on it. Now, I will
fired
add.
up, no?
I will add.
And again, this song will be played in every high school gym in Indiana, probably in America.
The one thing I do get nervous when the cheerleaders do the last name of the starters. Did head coach inform cheerleading coach if there is a starting lineup change? Was that part of the agenda?
Dude,
Do they go?
man.
Maybe they have to go check at the beginning of the game. All right.
Shane Steichen's calling Kelly Tilley for the Colts to make sure that Rick Carlisle's got the head of the Pacemates alerted. Just in case that they make sure they have that change.
It's wonderful stuff. Chris Ballard is on the way about a half hour from now. In the meantime, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
So, James, what is your ultimate high school basketball jam?
Ultimate high school basketball jam? That's a good question. Let me get back to you on that.
We ready.
Man, I got to get back to you on that one. I haven't thought about it. What's the one from Eminem? palms are sweaty, knees or whatever.
Lose yourself. Well, I think
yourself.
Till I Collapse is probably more of the good. Can I get some Till I Collapse, Mark Dykton?
100%, yes.
That's more of the big-time anthem, but obviously Lose Yourself. I mean, there's no better song out there.
All right. We are at the Combine Day 2 in the 2026 edition. Yesterday, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard meeting with the media. We'll talk to Chris Ballard a little bit later on. If you missed Shane Steichen's conversation with JMV last night, go to 1075thefan.com. You can re-listen to that anytime you'd like at your convenience. Big questions for Chris Ballard. What are you going to do with Michael Pittman? What are you going to do with Mooney Ward? Is he going to play again? Anthony Richardson's a big question. Do you tag Alec Pierce? What's the deal with re-signing Daniel Jones? Is it foregone conclusion that he wants to be here and you want him here? Is it that simple with Daniel Jones? Or like James was saying earlier, everybody wants a little bit more money, Kevin. What do you do there?
Yeah, again, the big news item from yesterday, it sounds like all indications, according to Chris Ballard, are that Travarius Ward will play in 2026. And on paper, a Sauce Gardner, Travarius Ward, Kenny Moore II, we'll see about Justin Wally coming off the torn ACL. That's a pretty good cornerback group. Now, there's context with it, as we've touched on, but I thought that was the biggest news item from yesterday.
All right, so we'll go through that a little bit later on today as the Combine continues. NBA, Pacers on the floor losing to the Sixers last night, 135-114, despite the mighty Micah Potter, 23 points on 11 of 13 shooting. I just want to make sure he gets his due today because I don't know how often we're going to be able to say Micah Potter scored 23.
Pacers lose their fourth straight. Worst record in the Eastern Conference.
Trying to be positive here, James.
You got to give us a spin before the show's over, Jeff. Or actually, you don't have your laptop. I got to go to tankathon.com and get a little spin in here.
I will figure that one out today. 6 of 11 from three-point range to begin the game for the Pacers. One of their next 21, Kevin. Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in the second half.
No, Joel Embiid did play for the Sixers, for those that care. So Hornets tomorrow night. Right now, the Pacers still in that top 3. Again, if you're in the top 3, your odds, 52% chance to maintain a top 4 pick.
Well, I just lost it in my simulator. Pacers got the 5th pick.
Okay.
Right to L.A. it goes.
Highest one we've had in the last week was second, James. We did have an instance where they picked second.
Get those bad vibes out of here, James.
I'm sorry, Mark.
Adam Silver's putting some water in those Pacers ping pong balls after Rick Carlisle's comments yesterday.
Rick Carlisle speaking with the Fan Morning Show yesterday, talking about his dissatisfaction with the way the NBA not only handed out a $100,000 fine to the Pacers for essentially tanking, but then the NBA felt the need after it circulated. You put it out on social media. It circulated. The NBA was contacted by James Boyd and The Athletic for response, and they said basically what, James?
More or less what Rick said was inaccurate and that they followed all of their protocols to a T. So, of course, the NBA is not going to say they did something wrong in their own investigation, right?
Well, the craziest thing, according to Rick, was that the NBA was like, could you have medicated?
Yeah, I think maybe on the other side, before we get to Ballard, we can kind of double back on this for our audience that hasn't joined us yet. I know we hit on it a lot at the 7:30 segment, but just kind of go over the statement an additional time and exactly where, if any, there are holes, which there are.
College basketball last night. How would you characterize Northwestern's 72-68 win over Indiana, James?
I would say Indiana played with their food there at the end, but they got screwed at the end as well. Cannot miss that call. Whoever missed that call, seriously, that official needs to be reprimanded in some way. That's egregious.
Looked like a clear foul against the non-shooting hand. Looked like a hand on the wrist of Tucker DeVries as he went up to try and tie that
if
one.
If I hacked JMV like
late.
that, he would be yelling at me. We'd be going
he might
up
make
top.
You walk home.
No, he ain't make me walk home. Now I got my own car. Work hard for that, Jeff.
It's funny, when IU got the strong whistle at the end of the Wisconsin game, I thought to myself, when is this going to come back the other way? And last night I think was probably that moment there.
Karma.
Just an awful sequence there late with Lamar Wilkerson throwing an alley-oop to Sam Alexis, turns into a Nick Martinelli wide-open 3, and here we are, annual tradition. We're debating IU on the bubble. Not an annual tradition, but some IU fans are probably like, when does spring football start?
All right. Also last night, Duke, a winner over Notre Dame, 100-56. Micah Shrewsbury, the head coach, leaving with a torn Achilles tendon in the middle of that game. What was going on there?
Yeah, I wanted to tear my Achilles having to watch it, so I don't blame him. Horrific. Just absolutely horrific. Cameron Boozer really good at basketball, and Notre Dame is struggling mightily. 8 scholarship players left. One of their players announced he's going to try to pursue the NFL. That's where we're at. The NFL, that is.
He might be rolling up to your guys' neck of the woods pretty soon.
I've been looking for him. Carson Tao. He's got great hair. I've been looking for him around here.
I'm going to try to get on Love Island. So if everyone's dreaming, let's do it.
Butler Villanova later on tonight, 6:30 airtime, 7 o'clock start as the Bulldogs try to continue a 2-game winning streak. See if they could. That'd be a huge upset to get a win at Villanova.
9.5-point underdog.
Well, they got the right name. Go Bulldogs. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we head to break and get ready to talk to Chris Ballard in a minute?
Shout out to Ball State. Armani Ziegler with the game winner in overtime. Their rare MAC win they've had recently, so they beat UMass. And Miami, Ohio remains undefeated, so they are approaching a perfect regular season. 3 games left.
And I do want to mention that Johnny Furphy had his right ACL surgery yesterday, got lost in all of the craziness of the NBA and the Rick Carlisle, a little back and forth. But, yeah, he's on the road to recovery.
All right, coming up in a moment, Chris Ballard, about 15 minutes away. We'll talk a little bit more about the Pacers and how things went for Rick Carlisle and the NBA yesterday. As Kevin alluded to, that's all next to 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Till I collapse, I'm spilling these raps. Long as you feel them to the day that I drop, you'll never say that I'm not killing them. Cause when I am not, then I'ma stop pinning them. And I am not hip-hop, and I'm just not Eminem.
Live from the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
There you go. You ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, see, Mark, this would add about 3 inches to the vertical, get the adrenaline going. look over at the high school girlfriend I'm trying to impress. Yeah, I feel good going to a game with this.
Add 3 inches to something. I'll tell you that much when I hear this song.
You opened up the door
This
for
man
him right
crazy,
there.
dude.
You opened up the door for him,
I
James
actually didn't
Boyd.
even think. Boy, Mark, you are never dull, my man.
Thank
never.
you.
Mark, do you have that the sound from Rick Carlisle yesterday? We were talking to him where he was very unhappy with the NBA and the $100,000 fine, and really the way kind of called out the way that they had investigated the whole thing, whether or not Pacers actually did have injured players. Could they have played? Why didn't they play? All those kinds of things. But I also want people to pay attention to very thoughtful Rick Carlisle. There was a big double pause before he decided to go in kind of on the NBA. Here it is.
I put out a statement about it. I didn't agree with it. There was a league lawyer that was doing the interview that kind of unilaterally decided that Aaron Nesmith, who had been injured the night before and couldn't hold the ball, should have played in the game, which just seems ridiculous. And during the interview process, I was not on it, but I heard details. We asked them if they wanted to talk to our doctors about it, because it's something that was documented by our doctors and trainers. They said no, they didn't need to. They talked to their doctors, who did not examine Aaron Nesmith. And we asked them if they wanted to talk to the kid, and they said no, they didn't need to. So this was shocking. This was shocking to me. And during the interview, they also asked if we'd considered medicating him to play in a game when we were 30 games under 500. So I was very surprised. Obviously didn't agree with it. This is really the first time I've gone into any detail about it, but that was the deal. And so, yeah, that was it.
Pretty amazing stuff, Kevin. You decided to, rightfully so, post that on your social media feed yesterday, and then it took off, gained all kinds of traction in the NBA circles.
Yeah, I guess for those that hadn't followed the story, about 2 weeks ago when the fine happened, Rick had a very James used the word mild earlier.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good way to describe it, a very mild statement. And I was curious because I to me, from afar, it seemed rather egregious the Pacers were being punished. And we know Rick. When Rick wants to talk, he'll talk. When he doesn't want to talk, he won't talk. So I was curious what his statement would be, and it was our first conversation with him since. And so that's why I felt the need late yesterday to kind of give him the opportunity if he wanted to say anything, and boy did he. And James, I just didn't think the NBA statement, while they initially said that Rick's comments were inaccurate, once they detailed that, I didn't read a ton of inaccuracies within the evidence. They maybe said that, hey, we actually did talk to the team physician or whoever the head team doctor, is. But outside of that, I definitely didn't hear a debunking of we told the Pacers to medicate Aaron Nesmith, which to me is the most egregious aspect of any of it.
Yeah, they didn't address the elephant in the room, because that, again, is a very slippery slope that you're going down if you're trying to make him play. And I think the context of the whole situation matters. Was this a season-ending injury? No. Was it a severe injury? No. But it was also second night of a back-to-back, third game in 4 nights for a guy who, if you know Aaron Nesmith, he plays all out. He's dealt with injuries. I don't think that he wants to necessarily not be available for his team. So when I put all of that into the picture, that's where I start looking at the NBA a little bit funnier. And then I told you all, regardless of all the policy rules that mostly apply to star players, which are deemed as players that are all-stars or all-NBA caliber players in the last 3 years, and then including the current year. So, for example, when I was reading through the policy, it was all about, in essence of the Pacers, when are you going to play Pascal Siakam? Because all throughout the policy it says star player. So thinking to myself, why does it even matter that Aaron Nesmith didn't play? Like, he's not technically a star by the NBA standards. But then I keep looking, Jeff, and there's a little bit of a clause right there in the penalization section of the policy that says, I'll just read it here, what I wrote yesterday. The clause states that the commissioner still has the power to penalize teams who, aside from their star players, have a player, quote, who does not participate in a game in circumstances that are, in the opinion of the commissioner, that's a big part there, in the opinion of the commissioner, prejudicial or detrimental to the NBA. So in other words, forget all of the rules that we have written in this policy. If I feel like you are not being or acting with integrity in the NBA, I can step in and say, you should have played, or you should be fined, or here's your punishment. And that, to me, is ridiculous because this policy has been in place for a few years now. And you pick and choose basically when you want to punish teams. This is Adam Silver. You talk about acting unilaterally. This seems like him just saying, well, you know what? I'm sick of this tanking talk. Our betting partners don't like it, Jeff, and we need to step in and say these guys got to play. Like, how do you pick and choose who gets punished? Like, that to me it's ridiculous. And to your point from earlier, Kevin, and feel free to expand on it even more for the 9 o'clock hour, it makes all the small market teams look at you and say, why the heck are you picking on us, the Pacers, when we haven't had a single-digit pick? Well, they have had one with Matherin and now Jarris Walker, but before that, they hadn't had a single-digit pick in like 30 years because they never tanked.
Hell, they didn't tank after the brawl if there was ever a time to tank.
I mean, come on, man.
So, yeah, I've always thought this when people brought up, hey, the NBA hates small market teams, they hate the Pacers, blah, blah, blah. I've just never been one that quickly gravitates towards that thought. But when you hear whatever Rick's comments or you see the situation, it had me pause. It had me thinking a little bit along those lines there. And my thing, too, is this. If you are going to put the hammer down with the punishment, I'm not even talking about the $100,000 fine. I'm more talking about, publicly punish someone in the manner that the Jazz and the Pacers were punished. You better be damn right you did all the thorough investigation, all the thorough evidence. You talked to all the necessary parties involved, including the freaking player that the accusation is. And you better be 1,000% sure that you have checked all the dots of the I's and crossing of the T's if you're going to follow through on it. And in my mind, that was not done here at all, and very selective. Again, we're talking second night of a back-to-back when this punishment occurred for a team that is in a far different, I think, situation than what Utah is in or what the Wizards are in or what the Kings are in.
All right, coming up in a minute, our conversation with Chris Ballard as we join you live from the 2026 NFL Combine. It comes your way next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Live from the NFL Combine in downtown Indianapolis, you're listening to the Fan Morning Show.
I think we should start an over-under every morning, Kevin, on how many songs James Boyd will actually stand up and start grooving to in the middle of the show.
Mark, I apologize. I was out filling up my water. You did play Till I Collapse, leading us back last segment. Gosh, man. Well, hey, no reason for me to download the podcast today.
There you go. Chris Ballard expected to join us in a couple of minutes here as we get ready to close down day 2 of our coverage of the NFL Combine. Shane Steichen was on with JMV last night, and probably pretty short and sweet with his answers, most of the questions with JMV last night for Shane Steichen. But John was ready because he kept rapid-fire questions, one right after the other. Kept going.
Just to alert everybody, we will go probably into the 10 o'clock hour with Chris Ballard here. So, yes, he's joining us late in the show, but for those looking for the national show, sorry, we'll keep it local a little bit here in the 10 o'clock hour.
I'm getting overtime like Mark Dykton, baby. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but would you get the OTA, or not the OTA, but the time off that Mark is getting PTO?
Yeah,
that's the question.
I got to look at your benefits, Mark. I got to look at the benefits.
Hey, use it or lose it, right?
That is true. I will say I know he'll be stopping by here very shortly, but in regards to JMV and Shane Steichen, yesterday I was not surprised by the shortness of Shane Steichen. He is a man of few words, and I feel like his eyes only light up when you ask him about, like, actual football plays. And then he gets into, like, the John Gruden mode or where he wants to break down everything under the sun. Other than that, he is all ball. Chris Ballard, probably a little better for the airwaves.
JMV was ready, though, man. It was one question after the other, after the other, the other, man.
I encourage you all to go listen to it, jokes aside, but, yeah.
That was a fun conversation, so that was good, too. And then, of course, both have been meeting with the media in general yesterday, and it's kind of what you expect. They're not really – nobody's going to tip you off specifically on what they're looking to do or how it's going to go down. And quite frankly, a lot of them, it depends on other factors outside their control sometimes.
Well, that's when me and KB just jump them with our questions. Some people use fists, we use words. So we just jump them and they're like, no. You said, what about Anthony Richardson? Let's circle back there. So, it was good to hear from those guys. And at the end of the day, man, you can feel how you want to about Chris Ballard. He is the GM. He's the guy tasked with trying to change the trajectory of this franchise, and it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody from a show standpoint, the next couple of days we'll continue to be live here at the Combine. Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst over at The Athletic with James. He's going to join us very high on D'Angelo Pons, very high on Omar Cooper Jr. He actually had an interesting thought about Fernando Mendoza at number 1. I want to ask him about.
I was going to say he's high on your boy Jeremiah Love, too.
Yes, very high.
He is the number 1 ranked player in his top 100.
And then Field Yates, Mark, you said Friday at 8 o'clock for the ESPN's Field Yates. We typically have him on at the Combine, so always enjoy chatting with him.
Looking forward to all of that, and again, waiting on Chris Ballard at this point in time. When you look at what Shane Steichen said yesterday to the general public and what you look at how his conversation with JMB went, was there anything that kind of raised your eyebrows and thought, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting? Or was it pretty much just coach speak?
For Steichen?
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned earlier, I do think the need to win ugly is something this franchise has not done well enough under Steichen, and it's necessary if you're going to survive a 17-game schedule. You can't have your offense is not clicking, to the level that it is. For 17 weeks out of the year. And so I thought that was something that he said that I definitely agreed with. And then, again, for those that are curious, because I get the question a lot, he will call plays again in 2026. We did see a couple coaches yesterday actually strip themselves of play calling. Sean Payton, Dave Canales in Carolina, but Shane Steichen will continue to call plays here. I'm not surprised by that. Frankly, I think it's something that he does better than people give him credit for, but he did mention that yesterday.
Probably one of the better play callers in the entire NFL, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think he's definitely up there.
Yeah. Joining us now, the man of the hour, Chris Ballard. It's always a home game when the Combine rolls around, so you got that going for you. So he'll join us here as he sits down and gets mic'd up here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. He's always kind enough to do this every year for us. And as he puts on the headset right there, Chris, welcome back. It's good to see you again. I hope
good to see y'all.
Is there such a thing as an offseason, like even 5 days or anything?
It's He put this mic
Okay,
on, so we're
we're good.
Now, when I moved in, so I was an area scout for a long time, and the good thing about being an area scout is you're on the road, but you're home. Like, you're on the road, but you're home and you're working from home. When you move in the office on the pro side, you're in the office. I mean, like when it starts in July, we don't get off until after the draft. So it's a grind, but it's when you're doing what you love to do. I've never saw it as work, so I feel fortunate. But there's never a time off. There's not. There's just that's just the way it is. And I don't know if I could take. I don't know if I could take a lot of time off. I mean, I'm just so used to working. I mean, that's all I've done my whole life. So I feel fortunate and blessed to be able to do what I do and be involved every day.
Chris, thank you for the time. This time last year was a lot about defensive back when you chatted with us here. Do you view defensive line now in that light this year in terms of the offseason focus?
Yeah, I mean, like you've got to – like I think I believe you went up front. I've always believed that's been a core belief. And so there's no question. Every year we try to do the best we can to make sure we have a front that can win, because when it really shows up is later in the season. And that's when your depth shows up. So it is a priority for us here going forward.
Draft-wise, obviously prospects starting to talk to the media today. You guys have done an extraordinary job at drafting offensive linemen in your tenure. When you look at that position group specifically, really outside of round one you have, why do you feel like you've been so successful?
I would tell you it was the hardest to learn. Okay, it just took years to learn what played in the league and then what was successful in the league. Being with Jerry Angelo, I always thought he did a really good job. Bobby DePaul at the time, who was our pro director, and then going with Coach Reed and John Dorsey, really kind of clarified everything. Okay, here's what we're looking for, and here's what succeeds in the league. You got to get a little luck sometimes where it falls your way, which we've gotten. But on the flip side of that, we've been able to identify the right traits in a player that can make them successful, i.e., Will Fries, who went on and, has had a heck of a career and as a seventh-round pick and done tremendous. So our group does a great job. I mean, we talk consistently about it, and it's always going to position that you don't ever want to go short, because when the season hits, I mean, take quarterback out of the equation, the bigs are the hardest to find on the street. They're just not there, and that's why you've always seen us go heavy on the O-line, D-line. That's as the attrition through the season, builds up, and it does. I mean, every year. The team you start with in August is never the same team you're playing with in December. So you've got to have enough depth, and the bigs are the ones you always got to try to find and stay with.
Conversely, D-end has not had anywhere near that sort of success. Why, and has your evaluation of that position group needed to change draft-wise over the years?
Yeah, I don't, and you're right. We've not produced the one real disappointing thing for me is we've not found a guy that, is an elite rusher. I think we've had good rushers. I think Latu still is coming into his own. It takes time to learn how to rush in this league. And us not being in the playoffs has not been able to show kind of the world, how he plays and not getting that exposure. So I do think he has a lot of upside. And look, I don't want to take anything away from some of the guys. Kwity Paye played good football for us. Sometimes the expectations of a first-round pick, no matter if he's the first pick of the draft or the 20th pick of the draft, everybody thinks, okay, he's automatically going to be a 10 to 15 sack guy automatically, and that's not the case. I do giggle sometimes because I think we broke the sack record a couple years ago, and we did it without Freeney and Mathis, who were, in my mind, two Hall of Fame. One of them's already in the Hall of Fame. The other one should be.
Chris, when you look back on last season, obviously you all had the 8-2 start, finished 8-9. You can look at it through two lenses of we were great the first half, not so great second half. How do you evaluate the whole thing when it's a year-to-year league and your final record is 8-9?
Well, the one, Shane and I have talked a lot about this, and we've talked about it as a group, coaching staff and scouting, that we got to find a way to win, these tough ball games. We lost so many down the stretch that were, a play here, a play there. And, like, injuries are not an excuse in this league. They're just not, they're going to happen. Injuries are going to happen. And you've got to be able to overcome that. And you've got to be able to get in a street fight sometimes and win the street fight. And, like, one thing I've told Shane this most time, like, don't lose. Let's start with don't lose the game, okay? If you look at our record, 8-2, and we were playing really good football, I think we were +9. And then you look at the last 8 games of the season, I think we're -9 or -10. So just turning the football over and not playing, taking care of the things that you have to do to win, we have got to improve on that. Without question, and it's hard. I don't want to sit here and say I don't think 8-2 was a mirage. I think we had a really good football team, but even if we'd have remained healthy, okay, everybody's healthy and we're going, you can't play and turn the ball over and do things that are not winning football. I don't care who you have. So we've got some improvement. Excited about the things we have coming back and the plan we have going forward. So we'll go from there.
Along those lines, Chris, what is the balance of believing in what you saw when you were 8-2 and then talking to Shane yesterday, talking to you over the years, knowing that you can't get too caught up in what you were because this league especially, it changes on a dime.
Yeah, and every year's different. Every team's different. It's never the same. And I can't sit there and say, okay, look back, snap my fingers, say, okay, everything's going to be okay. We were 8-2. We're just going to go off that. No, we have improvement we have to make in a lot of different areas on the team. We got to continue to increase the depth of our team and the competition of our team, and then allow our guys to compete, and guys that are earning it, making sure they're getting on the field. But every year's different. This is a new year. We're excited about where we're going. But we got work to do. We do. And it's a bunch of work. And, between now and start of the season, we're going to work pretty tirelessly to get it done.
One more, and I'll pass it to Jeff. But talk about work to do. We talked a lot about Alec Pierce and obviously Daniel Jones. Another free agent to be is Nick Cross. How would you evaluate his season the last couple of years, and also what he means to this team and possibly trying to bring him back?
It's never a player's fault when you draft them at 20 years old. We choose them, okay? And so to what? Nick's I think he's still 24. He might have turned 25, but I think he's 24 still. So we drafted him at 20, and then we thrust him into trying to get him in there right away, and he just wasn't quite ready. And so to watch his growth has been really, fun to watch. I've said this multiple times. Like, one of the really neat things about the job is watching guys mature and turn into men. They're not men when they come into this league. They think they are, but they're not. But to watch them mature, turn into men, into professionals, and that's one of the cool things about Nick. He does mean a lot. We have a lot of moving parts here, so we'll see how it works out. We've had talks with his representative. I know him well. And I'm proud of Nick, and I'm happy for Nick. And look, sometimes, like for players, and I tell them this when they're rookies, like, they're going to come a point when you and I don't agree and you don't like me because of finances. There's this big pie, and we can slice it up and give that piece of the pie. And somebody might be willing to give you a bigger piece of the pie. And if that happens, good, we've both done our jobs. We've done our job developing you, and you've done an unbelievable job taking the coaching and getting better and each and every year, and you deserve this opportunity. So we'll see what the future holds with Nick. I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. He made it to free agency, and he's made it on a high note. So we'll see how that works out.
Talk about secondary. If Mooney Ward decides to come back, and we don't know that answer quite yet, but do you still get excited about the possibility of having everybody that you put together last year healthy and able to play for a significant chunk of a season? Talk to me about what you think of health right now for that overall group and what you think is possible.
Well, look, it's a very we're humming. It's a very talented group, and Mooney's a really special young man, and he's been through some hard things in life. Okay, I talked to Mooney this morning. I called him drive. It's the best. His voice just sounded really positive and good of where he's at. All right, and he went to work. He knew he had to do some work, not just, on the injury stuff, but, also personally. He's had some hard things in his life that he's had to overcome, and that's not easy. And then being able to get, if Mooney's here, which, anticipating, yes, but if he's here and then, you got Sauce, when you have two corners that can play man-to-man, it helps the rest of it. It's going to allow Lou and the defense to do – a defensive staff to do some things that I think is really going to help us. And I think you saw some really good stuff when they were in there together. Like when the Kansas City game, like when they played – now they ended up having to play 95 snaps. And, look, the more snaps you give Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, eventually they're going to – I don't care who you got. They're gonna get you. But we played a lot of man-to-man in that game, and they held up really well for a long time. So excited about seeing, trying to get those two on the field together and seeing what they could do.
Getting live here at the Combine, Chris Ballard, Colts GM, is with us on Radio Row. Chris, you've largely had the same captains throughout this playoff drought. How do you evaluate the leadership of your football team when, A, the playoff success hasn't been there, B, the late season collapses have been pretty annual?
Yeah, no, and that's a fair question. Shane and I we've had discussions about that because we have really, look, y'all go through our locker room. We have really good dudes. They care. They want to win. They do everything they can in their power to do the right things. We have to make sure that they're getting, leaders, we got to help them lead sometimes, if that makes sense. We all have growth to do, even I have growth to do in that area, and they do. And we need to help them grow along the way, too, of things that we want done to make sure that is getting spread through the locker room. I think Shane does a really good job now, but, just at this time, because of the results, it hadn't been what we wanted. So we've got to make sure that we're leading them in the right direction, too.
You expect Zaire Franklin back?
We'll see. Love Zaire. I think, like, my relationship with him, he's very honest and he's very strong-willed. Darius was very similar, Leonard. And usually good players are like that. So we'll see how it plays out. When football, I'll tell you this, when football's over, Zaire Franklin's going to be a star in whatever he decides to do in life. He is smart. He is extremely mentally tough. He's everything you want in a player in terms of makeup. Are you
a fan of the podcast?
Needless to say, Zaire and I have had some discussions about the podcast. Look, here's what I do like. I love that he's passionate about what could be next in life. Like every one of our players, I want that for. But also, sometimes we've got to learn to temper some of the words that come out of our mouths.
Chris, you talk,
and that includes me. That includes me too.
That's growth right there.
No curse words this morning from Chris Ballard. Again, we have Coach GM Chris Ballard live from the Combine joining us here on the Fan Morning Show. Chris, when you look at Anthony's entire tenure here in Indianapolis, how would you evaluate it, number one? And number two, how crystal is his future here? And I get that you believe in him. You've been championing him for everything, ups and downs. And, I've been guilty of criticizing you and him. But when he doesn't –
and Daniel.
Exactly, yeah, all of them. I don't leave any in the clip. But my point is, when you're evaluating him, how do you, figure out what his future is here when you're also trying to re-sign Daniel Jones, and Riley has shown some things as well?
Yeah, well, look, you can never have enough good players at one position. All right, they might not be always happy about it, but you can't have enough good players. And look, it is hard to evaluate him right now. Anthony's still young. He is still young. I want to say he's 24 years old. All right, so the future's still in front of Anthony. The injuries always make it tough to finish to get a complete evaluation. And look, if you look at the history of some of these quarterbacks that have gotten hurt early in their careers and had some real struggles, but they come out the other side. It's kind of like I talked about yesterday about, you got to stand at the end of the edge of the abyss and not jump. He hasn't jumped, which is a good thing. I'm proud of him. He's had some unfortunate bad luck, but we'll see how it goes going forward. I know this. He works. I know this offseason he's worked. He's working with his guy down there that I think a lot of. And so we'll see what the future holds with him.
Speaking of that, what did you think of the late season performance of Riley Leonard?
It was fun. I mean, look, it was fun to watch. I mean, the game wasn't too big for him, which is always number one thing you look at. Is the game too fast and too big for him? And it's not. And you're talking about a young man that played in a lot of big games in college. So that part really didn't surprise us because it wasn't too big for him. His ability to, he has worked really hard mechanically getting the ball out faster. He took to, internally, our guys we bring a guy named Chris Hess who does some sequencing analysis on our quarterbacks. And, he had some it's a constant involvement when you're talking mechanics of quarterbacks. It's like a pitcher. They're always working it. And he took the information and worked with our strength staff really hard on things he needed to do with his sequencing. And it's getting better. And it was fun to watch in that Houston game. It all kind of come together. Now, like any young quarterback, you're going to, you got to live with the ups and downs. But he's really smart. He's got really good poise, and he can create. Those are things that I think you saw in the games he played in. I thought the throw look, when Daniel got hurt, we all were at the game, you could feel kind of the energy just gets sucked. He came in the game and played well. If you remember, he threw the ball to Pittman on a back shoulder for a touchdown that, whether I agree with the call or not, it was PI. But still, in the moment of when, and he had just come in the game, that kind of gave us some hope. Okay, look, it's not big for him. He can make some plays. And then going into the Houston game that first half, that was their starting defense, and he performed well. But like any young quarterback, we got to work on the turnovers. Can't turn the ball over. And, there's some times where a play is dead, and you just got to understand it's dead. That's part of his growth. But excited about Riley and where he's going.
Do you see an extension for Alec as an either-or if Pitt is back?
No. I think we got it. We'll work through that. I mean, plans can be a little – I wish there was you could just write on paper, okay, here's the plan. This is how it's going to go. This is the amount of money this guy's going to cost. And it fits into a perfect box. Well, unfortunately, that box gets determined sometimes by the market, all right, which it does. And so it's fluid. It's very fluid.
Would you say that to achieve the offseason goals, you might have to part ways with guys you've re-signed and or restructure, which is a little bit foreign for you?
That could happen. Yeah, that could happen. Here's the good news. Going forward, we're in very good cap and financial shape. Mike Bloom's done a really good job making sure that not only this year, but, future years are set up in a way where, we're still open to do business. We've not ever boxed ourselves in to where we're hamstrung on what we can do.
Chris, you were pretty quick in the end-of-season press conference to back Daniel Jones, to say he can be your short and long-term solution at quarterback. Why do you believe in him so much, and do you think that commitment to him was already made? Because this is how we evaluate it. Hey, you gave him 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. You don't do that if you don't believe in your quarterback. So what are your thoughts on that part of it, and also just moving forward, trying to get him here?
Yep. No, have a strong belief in Daniel. And, he's a quarterback that did. He had to go, he went to New York, had some struggles early, and I still thought even through the struggles he played pretty good football. And, take him to the playoffs, wins a playoff game. They signed him to extension, and then kind of the wheels came off. So he is a quarterback that stood on the end of the abyss and did not jump. And when we got him, just his daily professionalism and the way he works, and then to go out and perform, gave you some confidence. Look, I can't sit here and say there's always going to be some doubt when it comes to injuries because, look, he's had some injuries. But there's been some other cases that we've studied and looked at where they've had some injuries too. Quarterbacks have, and they've come back and they've had long, successful careers. I'm willing to bet on that. And I'm willing to bet on, Daniel, just because of who he is, what he stands for, and his passion to play the game and to be great at the game. He's not just a 9-to-5 guy. I'll never forget where DT David Thornton and I were walking out of the building before the seat. We had just named him the starter about a week before, and we're walking out of the building about 8:30 at night, and Daniel comes walking back in the building with some food. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm getting ready, for our first game, and I got some things I need to finish up." He'd gone to eat, then he said, I got to come back and finish this stuff up. So, no, I'm willing. You bet on a guy that he's going to come out the other end the way we want it to happen.
And then, Chris, you're going into your 10th season. I was going through Google, and you looked a little younger back then. I guess we all did. I think I was in high school or whatever, or college.
See this? Hey, you don't have that. You know why? Because you don't have any stress. All this gray. See the difference? No, but you got that fit. But you got that fixed.
Yeah, come on now.
I can't dye this because it's come out gray. And if I dye it, everybody will give me crap for it.
This is why I don't
look,
shave.
it's starting to show up on you. You got about – and look here, and let me tell you something, James. Next time I see you, they better not be black.
Yeah, no.
Isn't Urlacher your guy?
Oh,
Can he help you?
Oh, no. He's no doubt.
But along those lines, and jokes aside, you say you always feel the pressure to deliver. Going to a year where, for the first time in your career, going to the final year of your contract, does the pressure change at all throughout your experience? Does it change you at all when you're going through a job like this where every single thing that you do is going to be evaluated, judged, critiqued? I'll probably do it myself again this week. Like, how do you handle that and deal with that, knowing that you want to deliver so badly and you could be running out of time?
Yeah, like the time thing, I don't get stressed about that. I'm passionate about, I've had I'll tell you this. I've had 4 jobs really since college, okay? 5 if you count Hitchcock Junior High. But Kingsville, where I was fortunate to learn a lot, Chicago, Kansas City, and here. I've been really blessed. And every place I've left, it has been hard. Okay, and why? Because I invest in people, I've never seen it as just a job. It's about the people in the building, connecting with the people in the building, and caring. And every place I've left, I've had tears because of it. And one day it'll happen here in Indy. All right, sooner or later. I can't tell the future, but there's nothing more that I want than a win for the fans of this city. They deserve it. We have great fans, great people. I love the city. I love the way, they're respectful. I know on social media they're not respectful because they're too chicken shit to come say it in person. Can you blank? Did you blank that?
Mark's got you back. Got
it. But saying that, we've got unbelievable fans, and nothing more I want to win for them. And we're going to put every bit of our effort into doing that. It's hard to be in the arena. It's not for everybody. It's not this when you work in a profession where everything you do is going to be scrutinized, right or wrong. That's just what we do. And I'm going to tell you, for my children, it's been this has been a cool thing for them, kind of a cool outcome because they've seen the criticism I take. And, of course, look, it hurts them. But they have figured out that, I tell them all the time, don't ever let another man walk with their dirty feet in your mind, okay? Do the best you can do at anything you're doing. And don't for 1 second look back and regret anything that has happened along the way. You can't please everybody all the time. There's nothing more I want than being able to celebrate with our city downtown. And that's still the vision, and that's still the goal.
All right, last thing for me, I know that you and Rick Carlisle have each other's backs. He's led back and forth with the NBA over the last 24 hours. Anything you got for Adam Silver of the NBA today on the Pacers?
Come on. Look, I don't know enough about it other than I love Rick Carlisle and I love the Pacer organization, and I think they're freaking really good at their jobs.
I love it. You're getting the good job out of
Connie. I know Matt he knew I was wanting to give an answer too. They can't find me. I mean, Silver can't find me if I tell them they screwed him for freaking finding him $100,000. I don't work for the NBA, and I never will. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, they screwed him. I mean, I know Rick. He's got integrity. I know the organization. I shouldn't. Matt's back there shaking his head. Anyway, we're good.
We appreciate you coming by. We do. Thanks for the time.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon. There you go. That is going to wrap it up for us on a very busy day today here on the Fan Morning Show. Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, stopping by as he does every year at the Combine. We appreciate that time. We'll turn you over to ESPN Radio momentarily and Clinton Yates. We got Jake from noon to 3 today, and then JMV from 3 to 6 tonight. Butler basketball airs at 6:30, tip at 7 o'clock. Enjoy your Wednesday.